so much for tuning in at a different venue tonight, because Twitch is fighting us. So, hi, hello. This is Wacky Wednesday from Random Encounter Productions. This is the only time you'll ever see it on YouTube, because usually it's a Twitch-only show for us. You lucky bastards. I am Kaitlin. I am a guest DM for tonight. I'm terrified because I've never DM'd anywhere, anything before. Woohoo! Not just on stream, anywhere. So please don't hate me.
I mean, it's good.
We are doing a really interesting type of game tonight. But before we get into the many varied details and insanities of the game that is Puppetland, we have some announcements for you. If you're watching us here on YouTube for the first time, please head over to our Twitch channel as well after this. It's twitch.tv/randomencounterprod. Great place to be. It's where we live stream 4 nights a week. And you can see mostly D&D and tabletop games, but on things like Wacky Wednesday tonight, we will do anything from board games to video games occasionally to one-shots or weird different systems that are not just 5th edition D&D. Courtney, do you have a minute to talk about our friends over at Nobledorf?
Yes, I do. We have beautiful shirts. Made over with our friends over at Nobledorf Printing. They're beautiful and they're very soft. And right now, Nobledorf, good friends of ours, they are in their last hours of their current Kickstarter for the Cleric's Canticle.
Yeah.
What is the Cleric's Canticle, you may ask?
What is it?
It is a 16-page spell book. It's beautiful. It has beautiful art. I believe that some of their rewards include individual spell scrolls that are all really beautiful.
That's
so if you
cool.
like having props in your RPG games, they're a great place to go for that. And they are in the last hours of their Kickstarter. They are funded, but I think every little bit helps. I think they may have a couple of stretch goals.
Oh, yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But they their Kickstarter ends tomorrow morning, just before 10 a.m. So go check them out. They made these beautiful shirts for us.
Sure.
And speaking of those shirts, thank you for being our shirt model. Keep that up. So we have a contest going on our Patreon right now. Yes. And the first 50 patrons who enter are going to be able to be entered in a contest to win one of these shirts. But it's different than this shirt. You're going to be able to personalize the color and the cut and all that stuff.
But Kaitlin, do you only get entered one time?
Why no, Courtney? You don't! If you're a first level patron, you will only get entered once. But what if you're a third level patron? You're going to get entered 3 times! What if you're what if you're a 5th level patron? You'll get entered 5 times!
Damn it!
It's fine. Is one of your can't do math? Because that does not seem very appropriate. So if you're a 20th level patron, you get entered 20 times.
Shit.
See, I said it before you could, and you still did, and this is gonna be a fun night. And so it's a lot of fun. Thank you. You can lower the shirt, madam. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Head over to our Patreon. We have a lot of fun D&D specific content or role-playing content. We make characters for you. We're in the process of making a character of the month right now. The hero of the multiverse is what it's called. It's gonna be a warlock this month. So we're gonna build it at different levels for you. First level for our lower level patrons. 10th level for those $10 a month patrons. So we pick their spells and their archetypes in their class. Great for pulling for beginner players or old hands who don't want to build a character for a one-shot. It's a lot of fun. So head on over to our Patreon when you get a chance as well. And thank you in advance. Do we have any other announcements, friends, shout-outs that we need to do? Thank you to the Stream It Forward community, as always. If any of you managed to make it over here instead of Twitch, thank you very much for catching up to us, because this has been a night.
It certainly has.
Yes. Cool. Yes.
But I do have a question for you, Kaitlin.
I have an answer for you.
All right, we are playing Puppetland.
We are.
What the fuck is Puppetland?
Okay. Well, Puppetland.
You can't math.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I asked the good ones.
This have you guys not seen the cover of this one?
Yeah.
I have, but I haven't looked at it.
It's horrific.
Closely.
I'm gonna briefly put it in front of this camera. I'm gonna hide y'all for a second so that the audience at home can see up close.
Spooky.
This horror that is this.
It's a
Puppetland. It is a nightmare. Thank you, John Scott Tynes. Everyone go tweet at him right now. Thanks for the nightmares, buddy. I bought this RPG on a whim because I'm a puppeteer in real life, and I went, hey, that sounds fun. It's RPG plus puppeting. What could go wrong? The answer is everything, because it's horrific. Puppetland is a creepy little shithole.
Nice start.
It's great.
Take me there.
It's great, John. It's great.
No, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. But I will read you to set the mood the beginning excerpt in the front of this terrifying, nightmare-inducing storybook. The skies are dim always since the Maker died. Once the golden lights of Puppet Town were the brightest beacons in all of Puppetland, but now they gutter under blood-red glass. Once the sun and the moon moved their normal courses through the heavens, but now they are fixed in place. The faltering moon above and the cracked and peeling sun somewhere down below. The rise of Punch the Maker Killer has brought all of nature to a stop, leaving it perpetually winter, perpetually night. Puppets the length and breadth of Puppetland mourn the loss of the Maker and curse the name of Punch, but not too loudly, lest the nutcrackers hear and come to call with a sharp rap, rap, rapping at the door. So this is Punch, of Punch and Judy fame. In the land of Puppetland, in this story, Punch has risen against the Maker and killed him with his comically large hammer, in order to become like the Maker himself. He wanted to make puppets of his own that came to life, and every time he tried on his own, it didn't work. So his thought was, well, I'm a construct of wood and strings. I need to be a creature of flesh. So he killed the Maker, peeled his face off, and wears it like a mask upon his own face. At which point Judy left him, which if you've ever seen an old Punch and Judy show, took you long enough, sister. Just took you long enough. Hashtag no domestic violence.
His logic is solid. Take the face, put it on. Like
yeah, exactly.
That's how you become a person.
Now I am flesh.
Now I am flesh. Now I can make things work. Unfortunately, he was right. When Punch finally reappeared in Puppetland, Judy having fled with a single thimble with one of the Maker's last tears as her most prized possession. When Judy fled, Punch returned to Puppetland with 6 hideous, flesh-stitched puppets in tow he called his boys. He made them from the Maker's skin, and they're here to enforce Punch's law in Puppetland and make sure that Punch is king and no one ever brings the Maker back, because Judy believes that given that single vial, if she can find the Maker's body again from wherever Punch hid it after he was done skinning it, if she can find his body again, she can restore him. But that is a lengthy journey that will take many, many tales to tell. Now, speaking of tales, Puppetland's weird, y'all. You freaked out yet? Because I am. Puppetland is weird. Raise your hand if you'd ever heard of this before I brought this in. All right, cool. Excellent. Sean actually came into this knowing more than I did. He was like, hey, there's this thing. And I went and read some more stuff and then read the rest of the book and went, this will be fun.
Oh, shit, dog.
Shit, dog. It's got dark.
It was the 90s.
It was the 90s. Well, John Scott Tynes admitted in his Kickstarter video, by the way, to get this beautiful, full color, gorgeous. I mean, the illustrations in here are stunning, you guys. They're horrific, but they're stunning. Yeah, they're really creepy. They're beautiful. His Kickstarter to bring this book to life after he several years after he released the RPG. He mentioned his lifelong fear of puppets, so he wrote this to teach us all how horrendous puppets are, and hopefully help him in the destruction of all puppets forever. He never understood even as a kid why Punch and Judy was a thing, because that was a messed up relationship the two of them had. So Puppetland is told as a story, which means some of you don't even know these rules yet. Okay, which means
I know this one.
It's awful.
Everything that is said at the table is something your character says. There's none of the, I go to the door and open it. You gotta just say, there's a door over there. Let's open it. My job is not as a dungeon master, but a puppet master. My job is to narrate everything you're doing and fill in the gaps. Please don't hate us, guys. This is weird. None of us have done this before.
Or also hate puppets. It's fine.
Hey, rude. That's
Feel
my
free.
line. That's what I love, buddy.
Fair.
So, questions about that for starters. Let's get those out of the way. That's...
So, just giving an example, if I were to talk to someone across the table, I wouldn't tell you that I'm going to walk over to that person and talk to them. Normally, when you play Dungeons and Dragons, you'd be like, okay, well, I would probably take her to the side. You know, we're gonna whisper. I would literally, hey, so I'm thinking that maybe we should, and that's okay.
Exactly.
To clarify,
and I, in turn, would say, what is your character's name? Bello whispered over to Lisa Lee. Like, you know, I have to story tell this.
Got it.
What were we thinking? Yes, ma'am.
Now, if there is any sort of battle or fight,
how does that work?
How does that work? Do we just go like, hiya, and then just coming for ya?
I mean, as much as I love the everybody was kung fu fighting mentality, the way it was described in the book is regularly. Because it's a children's story. They over-narrate everything they do themselves. Rumpelstiltskin doesn't just, it's not narrator, Rumpelstiltskin has a plan. If you ever read the original story, Rumpelstiltskin says, aha, but I have a plan. I shall do this. They narrate their own inner monologue. So you could say, I have found this rock. I will throw it at the nutcracker. Like, that's great.
Man,
to facilitate that, however, eventually I want to have a fully puppeted version of this, where, because you can tell multiple tales, so we can revisit this story later. I want to have a fully puppeted version, but that's like a subscription stretch goal on our Twitch. That's like a sub goal for us to have a fully puppeted episode. It's gonna be terrifying. You're gonna have to sit very far away from the marionettes over here.
This is gonna okay. I would like to take a moment. I'm sorry.
You have earned that moment, buddy.
I would like to describe to everybody my childhood. I loved horror movies as a kid, but they gave me nightmares. So I'm not trying to shout out people, but that's what's going to happen. Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, Dream Warriors. If you've seen that, I don't want to get crazy descriptive, but there are veins that get, you know, pulled out, kind of. Girl,
We're just doing
more like right. So Freddy Krueger is like, oh, I have an idea. Veins. Veins. There's a lot of teenage boys screaming, and then Freddy Krueger's like, you know what? It's a nightmare, and he's like moving this dude through a building, and he gets it's just disgusting. And I was like 6 or 7 when I saw this.
Yeah.
So
you're welcome, everybody.
Like marionette puppets, marionettes are not. Like I'm sorry. But that's why I'm sitting far away from people who I know.
Good. Marionettes.
No.
It's fine. Punch the Maker Killer is a marionette. You're allowed to hate him. He is a marionette. So to facilitate that,
apparently hate is okay.
Apparently. By the way, to facilitate that storytelling kind of element, you are welcome to and encouraged to pantomime things. So for instance, you could, hey,
That's what we were doing.
I found a door. Like, you know, you can pantomime, and it gives me chances to narrate as well on top of it. Do you fly?
No.
Oh, okay, you're a
No,
You're a bird again.
we're just very regal.
Oh, no, you two are always the same thing. Last one shot, you all the same thing. Hell's wrong with these dice, y'all.
So question-wise,
We're
for
meant
you,
for each other. It's important.
Clearly.
Since you're narrating,
Yes.
so it's kind of good because we're pretty much improving this entire story. So it gives us breathers. Maybe if I am pantomiming, that's the opportunity for you to describe what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So I will look at you when
Giving
I'm saying things.
some pantomime. I mean, that narrator might be silent at those moments though, because she might be like, "What's gonna happen next?" Oh yeah.
Okay, fair.
Oh yeah. There are definitely gonna be moments when I'm like doing shit that I'm just gonna be like, all right, and.
He looked at her with a cleverly cocked eyebrow that said he had a plan.
I'm just gonna like look up at the sky and be just like.
That's an actual land listed in this. That's
The
fair.
sky?
The sky is a land. The sky.
Can we not?
The sky overhead is a few yards high to a puppet it's unreachable. Before the Maker died, the sky changed regularly. Because this Puppetland is set in an abandoned theater. This is the Maker built all these puppets. The Maker is a human. The puppets, when he died, like they have the ability to come to life themselves. And he loved them, and he whatever, and magic, whatever.
He loved them, whatever.
He would turn on the stage lights and turn off the stage lights at the end of every day. So to them, that was day and night. When the stage lights came on, he thought it was day. When the stage lights went off, they thought it was night. So probably only the ghost light or something. Yeah, because the Maker isn't there to turn it on anymore. Yeah, sad, right? It's so sad. So there's a couple other weird rules that I, per the suggestion of these lovely folks over here, I'm going to read word for word from the book because they are a thing. Talk amongst yourselves while I find them.
Now's the time to pee.
Oh man.
Go pee.
Yeah, they are a thing. Okay.
Viewers at home, America.
Go pee,
Got
man.
it.
You should.
All right.
Pee is good.
Rules.
Hashtag pee
So,
dehydrated.
all right. There are rules. Yes. Thank you. The first rule: an hour is golden, but it is not an hour. A tale of Puppetland can last no more than an hour of time. Puppets are special and magical creatures who only come to life in stories, and stories must never wear out their welcome. When the hour ends, all of the puppets in Maker's Land fall asleep. When they awaken at the start of the next tale, they are all safe back in their beds, or wherever they have been staying lately. Things outside are still the same as they were at the end of the previous tale, except that all the puppets, who survived, are back in their beds snug and warm. Wounds from one tale are not carried over to the next tale. Injured or maimed puppets awaken whole and well again, but puppets who die never return. An hour is golden. A Puppetland tale may seem to take more than an hour. For instance, the puppets might make a long journey that takes many days, but time only passes in the time it takes to talk about what you were doing. A puppet can say, "I sleep for a week," and a week has gone by, but only a few seconds have passed on the clock. The clock is the arbiter of time, as it should be, not the actions of the puppets. The time passed is the time in which the tale is told, not the time in which the events of the tale occur. An hour is not an hour. We have an actual clock here on the table for our puppet actors. Puppets are intrinsically aware of how much time that has elapsed, so they know that no matter what, they're going to fall asleep at the end of an hour. They get more and more frantic as the story ends, because if they don't succeed in whatever the tale is, they know that when they wake up again, things are going to be very bad. So the actors are aware of exactly how much time they have. That's why we can explain a little more of the rules to you, because we have a specific break time. We've got some time to explain some rules. They are aware. They will see, and they will know how close they are. So that is rule number 1. Rule number 2: what you say is what you say. This one's gonna be so hard, guys.
Oh, it really is.
So scared. During a game of Puppetland, it is very important that as long as the actors are sitting in their chairs, they say only what their puppet says. Every word an actor says while seated comes out of his or her puppet's mouth exactly as the actor said it. No actor should say anything while seated that he or she does not mean for their puppet to say. Not at all. Not even if it's "pass the chips" or "I'm going to the bathroom." Sean. That would be a good time to pee. Can puppets do that?
This puppet can.
Yeah. If it,
Really elaborate puppet.
yes.
It's incredibly
A
elaborate.
water system.
It's got a urethra.
If the actor wants his or her puppet to do something besides speak, this must be stated as something the puppet says. For example, if an actor wants her puppet to climb a ladder to a window, she will declare, "I shall climb the ladder and go in through the window." If an actor wants his puppet to take a hammer and smash the window, he will exclaim, "With this hammer I now hold, I shall smash the window in." All forms of action that an actor wishes his or her puppet to take must be expressed as dialogue spoken by the puppet. Though the dialogue can be kept simple, the puppet master is expected to infer appropriate action based on the dialogue and not need every step spelled out. An actor cannot ask questions of the puppet master, for in Maker's Land there is no puppet master, and hence no one to whom the actor's puppet would address such a question, because the maker is dead. If an actor does not quite understand something that the puppet master has said or desires more information, he or she may simply say something like, "I don't quite understand all of this," or "I find all of this most confusing." The puppet master will then attempt to explain things better. Apologies in advance. A puppet master who needs to ask an actor a specific direct question must do so within the narrative by making a rhetorical device, such as, "And did Splotch Flaggy really mean to eat Punch's boy?" The actor can then respond silently by nodding yes or no, or saying something relevant like, "I bet he'll taste nasty." Then the puppet master can continue. "Yes, he did. He gobbled Punch's boy right up." Please don't. They're made of flesh, guys. Don't do that.
Don't tell me what I can and cannot do.
What you say is what you say.
Oh, man.
The third rule is, the tale grows in the telling and is being told to someone not present. The puppet master must realize that while he or she has a certain tale in mind, the tale may not end up being the one that's told. Great, I have like one idea. And that's it. Y'all are on your own for the rest of the hour. Right. They create dialogue of the main puppets. They should strive to make their dialogue sound colorful and appropriate, and should also strive to make the tales entertaining and unpredictable as they can. Y'all are also welcome to do that. Sean, this is just for you. Embrace the chaos.
Yo. Give it up.
Always imagine, as mentioned a moment ago, that an invisible reader is reading every word that is spoken during a game of Puppetland, and they would be most disappointed if the words sound bad or don't flow well or don't make sense. Since this is a tale, it should always be told in the past tense, except for dialogue, which is in the present tense.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
No.
Woof, right?
Do you have any wins? I don't know.
So many. Now, let's talk about your character sheets.
Yes.
Hold them up for the cameras, ladies and gents. Oh my gosh, they're all so cute, you guys!
We're in the
mine's on the
3rd
back.
grade.
Please
We didn't do ours right.
We're done.
We didn't do. Oh,
The boys are the only ones that did it wrong.
We didn't do ours right because we're the boys and we're idiots.
Sorry.
So we did our things on the back
It's okay, you're pretty.
like dumbasses
It's fine.
and left the smart shit to
Do I
them.
need to hold it in front of my face like it's a chorus line?
Oh no, I got it. Oh,
How many
no.
puppets do you need? I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. I got it.
Sponsored by a chorus line.
We should just
D&D sponsored by a chorus line.
Of all the things that we could be
I feel like we should just be sponsored by Broadway at this point. Like, hashtag
We've
sponsored
made
by
a lot of
Broadway.
How many of us went to
references.
Steven Sondheim sent us money.
So, dear Steven Sondheim, you've got money burning a hole in your pocket. We've got some people who could use it.
He's not
I've
even
seen Mean
he's
Girls
not
on
even
Broadway.
aware of time passing.
Send
So he
tickets.
won't notice
Is
it.
immortal.
That's why this.
Yeah.
That's
Are
why
you
it's
kidding?
only an hour. That's all he can intake at one
All right.
point.
Well, this is for you, Steve.
Sometimes going out with Betty White. It's
Get out. Get out. You're making some dangerous predictions over here, buddy.
All right. All
So,
right.
those character sheets. You
3
might not.
weeks after Betty. That's all I'm saying.
Stop talking. How dare
This
you?
is what we have to deal with all the time.
You have to deal with that.
Betty White predictions.
I am sorry for Cody now. I apologize. I apologize to you, main chief dungeon master. For
Wherever you are.
The voice of God.
In the ether.
Upstairs.
Anyway, so those character sheets, the audience might not be able to see them very well, but they have puzzle pieces on them. These puppets are
Puzzle.
yeah, that's still gonna be
I got an idea.
yeah.
More.
There.
That's better.
There it is.
Good, thanks, Sam. So, those puzzle pieces represent each puppet's impending doom. Because they are constructs, living ones, but they're still constructs and they're made out of fabric and string. Not slush. So, anytime anything particularly bad happens to a puppet, they get hit by something, they get injured, or they do something their puppet type is not able to do, or they talk out of character, it will damage their puppet. It damages the magic that keeps these puppets alive. And the actor has to shade in one of those 16 puzzle pieces on their sheet. Those shades do not reset and they do not affect the way your puppet behaves. They are magical puppets, so for instance, if I say that you lose a leg, you shade in a puzzle piece, your leg will grow back because magic. But once you have filled in all 16, you have reached an inevitable point of doom, and your puppet will not wake up for the next adventure. You know when it's coming. I'm getting emotional. These puppets, you know what they can and cannot do. Each of them has specific types of puppets, which we'll get into in a minute when we do introductions. Each of them has specific types of puppets. They know what the puppets are capable of. Some of them can or can't do certain things. Finger puppets don't have arms and legs, y'all. They can't kick. They have to plan accordingly. If one of them attempts to do something like that or speaks out of character, they know to shade in a puzzle piece. If I know that they've just gotten attacked by something, if I know that they've gotten in trouble or done something dangerous that will hurt them as a puppet, I will describe it in a way that they understand that they have to shade in a puzzle piece. Again, once all 16 are gone, they will not be visiting us for the next adventure in Puppetland. Otherwise, they will keep waking up. You keep these character sheets for every time we revisit Puppetland, and you start where you were. They do not reset. There's nothing that can make them reset. If you last for 30 games and you are just slowly shading in, you go through one game, you only have one puzzle piece left, you're gonna be careful, or you're gonna be Sean, and you're just gonna dive into everything. Go out, kamikaze blaze.
I live like I live.
Yeah, you do.
In a sweater.
Yeah. Oh wow. So let's go around and introduce our puppets. Talk about what they are and what they can and can't do.
Do we have to be our puppets in this moment?
Not in this moment.
Okay.
But if you'd like
Fair.
to, you're welcome to. But no,
clock
I mean, you
hasn't
could
started.
enjoy
Enjoy
this
last moment.
Yeah, I kind of want a
Enjoy
moment
the
of
last few minutes
humanity.
of you can
freedom.
just of freedom
Okay.
before we launch into narration.
Yeah.
Crap.
I'll be disappearing here after I describe. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here. This description moment is your last moment to speak as you. So
Okay.
milk it.
All right.
Milk it.
Does anyone, well,
Milk
actually,
you.
quickly, does anyone have any other last minute questions? Plot story, the way it works. Great. There are no dice rolls. We decide story-wise as a group if it succeeded or not. If whatever you did, if you want to say, "Oh, I can't. This door cut won't budge. Someone come help me." If you know you're not strong enough, that is on you. This is a group storytelling experiment in madness, and the narrator, unfortunately, is an impartial third party. Is the impartial voice of God.
It's gonna be so hard.
Yes, it is.
terrifying.
This is our first time doing this, guys. Hopefully, this is going to be a series, and we're going to be able to keep revisiting Puppetland with these players, or new puppets, or old returning puppets. Eventually, once we get we want to eventually do a fully puppeted version, and Eduardo will hide. You can hide behind your shadow screen.
I will never
Save
look at the other
Yeah.
part of the table. is what's gonna, I would just
I'll
be
sit them on
always-
either side of you. It's just a real terror for it'll up the ante of this
I
story.
hate it.
Like those visors in grade school, you'll be behind it and you're
Yes.
Hey,
Like,
I'm
you go
in-
DM
yeah.
screen. You're just a little shadow puppet. Yes. I have someone who can make you a shadow puppet screen, actually.
It might be
Yeah.
like behind and like blockers, so I can use a.
Yes.
Well, when I
figure
talk
it out.
about my puppet,
Figure it
well,
out.
you'll see.
It'll
when
be
I
fun.
meet.
So, with the idea is, we're learning this. We are learning this system. So please forgive us if we stumble. And thanks for joining us for the ride.
Thanks, guys.
Also, please apologize. I apologize in advance if I just pass out midstream.
No,
All right, let's start over here because Courtney was still writing stuff on her.
Sure. Okay,
Frantic
so
Scrabble.
my puppet is called Bello Bushybrow, and he is a shadow puppet. So with shadow puppets, normally you have two options. One of those options is to do things with your hands and go ahead and do that. But there are also shadow puppets that are created out of paper. So when they're created out of paper, you would reflect the light upon them and the shadow. So I feel like he is paper, but very, very, very thin. Very super thin, because normally you wouldn't be able to see him. And he needs a lantern that the original maker made for him. But that lantern has gone missing. So now he's using like a dinky flashlight, and he can't carry things with his own hands. So he usually like needs a friend to like flicker the flashlight on. But batteries are scarce, so like he's running low on battery. So he's like slowly becoming invisible. He wants to like, he needs his lantern back
I'm
to like
sad already.
make it
I don't like
happen.
this.
But yeah, he's a bison, and the reason why he's called Pushy Brows is because some bison, I believe they're called wood bison or something like that, have super big like bushy like things in front of their faces. So yeah, that's
Bello
that's Bello.
Bushybrow. All right.
I can't wait to make up a voice for him on the spot.
I mean,
I think I know what I want.
Yeah,
I think I know what's
right
gonna
there
happen.
with you.
I'm
All right.
trying. It's tough.
I'm ready.
Those voices are tough.
It's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I'm ready. Give it to me.
It's gonna be tough.
What's the name of your puppet again?
What?
What's the name of
The name of my puppet is Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons.
Of course.
Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons is a hand puppet. Yes, indeed. He has no legs, but a lovely sort of skirt for a body. And on that body is just a sea of beige and khaki. He sort of looks like what you would imagine a 1920s safari goer to have. On the top of his head is sort of like a little safari helmet, but it is, of course, felt. He wears...
What's happening?
Right? I know.
Helmet.
He looks like a really fun, adventurous kind of puppet. And the way you can tell that he's down for adventure is the lovely and meticulously crafted felt mustache, which resides on his lip.
I'm
Thank
here
God for
this.
felt mustaches.
I am here for this.
Oh, we're all here for this, whether we want to be or not. He, As the residents of Puppetland have come to know, Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons is never one to not speak his mind. He is loud, he is obnoxious, but he is always truthful.
Oh, good to know.
Oh, is that it?
That's it.
The end of that
There was so much going
I'm not gonna do a soliloquy.
I don't know.
Jesus, that's
You
later.
just end in a couplet.
That's
Save the dialogue from you have to dialogue.
Right.
I have a death soliloquy planned, so you go for it.
Wow, that's a lot to follow. All right. Well,
I am more than happy to let you follow. Go.
great. Thanks.
Good luck.
You're the worst. All right. I am playing Lisa Lee, the Clown Queen. Lisa is also a hand puppet as well. She has perched her head a little clown cap with a faint crown-like design at the base. Long, adorable red hair, cute little bang, like I have now, attached to my own skull and flesh.
Where flesh is ruined for me.
I mean, it kind of rolled off the tongue. Lisa Lee, the Clown Queen. She has some cute little red lips, a wonderful, traditional, almost Shakespearean color, and a cute little gold gown. She also has a little skirt body, the same way that wonderful Reginald does as well. I don't like the look on your face right now. You're like, what is she talking about? I am a very regal puppet. I cannot partake in certain desserts in order to protect those of my people. And in keeping with
Never get cake.
tradition, I can't eat cake. And keeping with tradition of representing a country and understanding that a queen is the embodiment of many and not just a single, I can only refer to myself in the royal we.
No, absolutely not.
The moment she drops an I, she's gonna be shaking.
I'm gonna be cursing like we're gonna be cursing like a sailor.
That's fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, great, wonderful.
All right, I am going to be playing Miss Polly Purple Yarn. She is a very teeny tiny finger puppet. She's a very simple puppet. She was a farm girl. She used to have a little felt dog, but she's very timid.
Y'all all with the sad. The backstory of Puppetland isn't tragic enough. Y'all had to go add this in.
Yeah, right?
Sorry about it.
I'm not sorry about it.
Yeah.
She has no arms or
queen,
legs.
fine.
She's a simple puppet, and like the buttons on the front of her dress don't match.
Oh, we love her.
But yeah, she has no arms or legs, so she can't like kick anything or grab anything. She can't grab anything, like she can't like climb anything unassisted. She also, though, she cannot withhold any information directly asked of her, and she cannot refuse to help another that asks her for help.
Oh my. I didn't say what I could or couldn't do.
I know, she's so sweet.
Oh, she's gonna die so fast.
Fucking honesty for the win. Yes.
I've read the descriptions of these boys. Y'all, they're freaky. They're gonna come for people.
Do it.
Okay, over in the finger puppet corner, I also have a little finger puppet, and his name is Billy Bean Can because he lives in a coffee bean can of the purest 100% Arabica beans.
So specific.
He's a barista like me, and he's wearing what I'm wearing, and he has a bowler hat. I don't have a bowler hat, and he has like yarn.
Oh, I have a bowler hat. We're gonna make this happen.
Really? Oh my
But
God,
not now.
yes.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
So he's got like yarn facial hair, like, goatee, of course, and like, a mustache and kind of like sideburns and stuff. And so he doesn't have real hands or feet, but painted upon him, he has like a little coffee cup like on the side. And most of his traits are coffee related. He's kind of one note, and
Points one finger, so that makes sense.
so he smells like coffee because he lives in a coffee can. So everyone loves that. So he charms people with his coffee smell and talking about high quality coffee. He cannot drink inferior coffee. He cannot lie about coffee. and he cannot not have a hat. So if his hat falls off, he has to put something else on his head. So someone else has to do it. So,
I'm dying.
and,
details, you just magically
yeah.
pick things up.
So coffee.
That's wonderful.
I wonder where you work these days.
I know.
Hashtag not sponsored by Starbucks.
No, but we'd like to be.
I think you'll have a better chance going for LaCroix. I don't know about you.
Well, let's see who gets to us first.
Hashtag Starbucks versus LaCroix.
Yes.
Get that trending, y'all.
Weird rivalry. Anyway, my puppet is a marionette puppet.
I
know, Eduardo's favorite. I think you guys are gonna be really good friends. Okay, her name is Kayla, the Cupcake Queen of Karate, and she came to play. So she's tall and stocky. She's a little slow, but she's strong. You know, like ballerinas, so they move slow and graceful, but it's a very strong presence. And so for that, she literally is wearing a tutu and point shoes, but she also has her pink belt on, pink belt in karate.
Oh my
So she can make you a souffle and karate chop and save the day. She actually has a super powerful karate chop that actually does go through wood. So she can chop through wood. Which
we got no heavies in this place.
Oh, they're there. These are the heavies.
She also can fight while singing. So she sings and she uses her musical karate moves when she's fighting. She can rhyme at the drop of a hat, both literally and figuratively.
If your hat falls off,
Your hat falls off.
Oh no.
That's
Okay.
right. She can kick things her size, and she cannot remove her little glovelets. Otherwise, she starts to slow down for about 5 minutes. And then she has to move in slow motion.
Oh, so much. I love it.
She's really naive. She's not the brightest crayon in the box, but she's always really enthusiastic and happy. And yeah, she can't resist cupcake temptation as well, no matter what it is. So it's like, you know, like squirrel, but with cupcakes.
Cupcake.
Yeah, she can't really dodge things that are thrown at her or moved quickly. So
All right. She's adorable. Okay. Hit us.
Hi, and the second marionette of the evening. Our other marionette is Moira McManners.
Sorry.
Moira McManners.
Moira McManners.
She's polite as fuck.
She was originally made by the maker to help teach children the importance of good manners. So she's very polite. She can't do anything other than like walking around without asking permission.
One of those. Mother may I. Maker may I.
Maker may I. But
Androste's tits.
But she's a really good dancer.
Nothing.
But like I said, she needs to ask permission first because it's not always appropriate to just start dancing. It's not always appropriate. There's a time and a place.
There is a time and a place. All right. So if you guys are ready, we're about at that time. Remember, once we start that hour, you have 1 hour.
Okay.
From the moment I start Once Upon a Time until we succeed or fail. And then we're gonna take our break and then come back and tell a second tale, by the way. Unless we're all too traumatized, in which case we might just play darts.
Or just hold each other
Just hold each other and weep and have a group puppet therapy session. Show me on the doll where everywhere.
No dolls!
Show me on the doll where you died.
Jesus!
Well, I have 16 puzzle pieces. All right.
I'm writing.
Do you mind if I disappear real quick?
I do not mind.
Alright.
Run do your thing, and as soon as Sean gets back.
This actually is a good opportunity.
I'm gonna give you guys
because
very specifically 5
I didn't tell
minutes.
any of the things that I could or could not do, so let me catch you up
Yes.
on that. Bellow Bushy Brow, a lot of things refer to his lantern. So he doesn't have it at the moment, so he can't do certain things. So at the moment with the flickering flashlight, I'm really only physical when the light is on. So the batteries are really reliant on what's happening. So hopefully that will we'll either get more batteries or we'll find this lantern. But when he has his lantern, he can shrink his size. So he'll get smaller or bigger based off the light. He can charge at others because he's a bison, but he can't carry things he's kind of weak because he's paper. But he can move really fast, and if he turns sideways, you cannot see him. He's invisible.
Oh, that's
which is pretty cool. So I gotta remember that. But the things that he cannot do, he cannot be visible without light. So there has to be light. It's mostly nighttime, so hopefully those batteries last. We're about to see what happens. He can't carry his own flashlight, so somebody has to like carry it for him. So we'll see how that goes. He can't read. He can talk. He's a puppet, but he can't read. And he can never get wet. So that means he can't swim. If he gets wet fully, he dies. So
Same with fire for him. The shadow puppets are vulnerable to fire and water.
That's why he has the lantern, so it's like above him. But we'll see what happens if we find the lantern.
It's one of those things where, like, if he says a moment, y'all better rescue him quick, otherwise he's gonna be straightened in like 9 puzzle pieces.
Yeah, we'll see.
Small damages repair themselves overnight, or instantly, depending on the damage. But something big like that, insta death for shadow puppets. Y'all, they are risky.
We'll see.
You reminded me that I forgot to say what I can do. I just felt
yeah, this is a good opportunity.
You can avoid cake like a pro, and you can speak in the royal we.
Avoid cake. I can speak in the royal we. I can juggle as a distraction. I can remember everything told to me.
Oh, that's good.
That'll be interesting because Dana the person can't remember everything told to her, and
so
she can't ask the DM to repeat stuff. She can't.
That's a really good point.
A la Liam and Matt Mercer on Critical Role.
Thanks, John Scott.
We are also not sponsored by Critical Role.
Not sponsored by Critical Role. And I can grapple one opponent.
Yes.
Oh,
whoa.
Well, they only have arms. Like, up body strength for days. Like, that's all they got.
Yeah, I can move quickly, dodge, move very quietly.
Oh, right.
Repurpose found items.
I like that.
Since when someone is lying.
Oh, that's good.
All right, I think I hear.
Love it.
Yeah,
seventh puppet. All right.
Wow, did I make that
curse.
almost perfectly 5 minutes?
That was weird. Perfect. All right, I'm going to
It's like I
do
didn't
a
even
quick.
plan it.
I'm going to do a quick story intro, and then I will start the clock.
Okay.
We're ready.
Everyone, get your last non-canonical, out of character. Everyone, shake it out.
See you on the other side. Yes. See you there.
All right.
I'm sorry about my character voice.
Once
me
more.
too.
I
Once
apologize for everything that is about to
I'm breaking
happen,
out there.
especially
Since
to
it's
you,
like a
Eduardo,
minute. I feel like
especially
this
to
is
you,
the
Dana,
opportunity.
especially to you,
Yes.
Sam, especially to you, Christine, especially to you, Lauren, and especially to you.
One last Sean is the worst.
We're ready.
Before we
We got
start.
this.
I am going to, especially for the viewers who just tuned in, there's a brief world introduction in the form of storytelling. So I'm going to. This is the prologue of the tale. Okay. Many years ago, there was a war in the people world. Many were hurt and terrible things happened. The Maker saw all that was happening and wept. His creations were the gentlest of creatures, and they too were saddened by these tragedies they witnessed but could not comprehend. The little basement theater beneath his shop had been a lively place, where the old brought the young to hear the wonderful stories. Gradually, the old were fewer and fewer, but the children still came, until they began to disappear too. A little boy this week, a family the next. And then the day when no one came at all. The Maker made the puppets, and soon they were all he had left. So he made a great creation, Maker's Land, a place where all his puppets could go and be safe until the war was over. It was in this way that Maker's Land came to be. One morning, the Maker's puppet shop was closed, and all the puppets had gone. Hand puppets, finger puppets, marionettes, and others. Just gone. One morning, the puppets woke up and they were found. In Maker's Land, where the cruelty of humans was just a dim memory. In Maker's Land, all was well. The puppet folk lived without fear and spent their days happy and free. No one controlled them. No strings pulled them. They could live as they cared, their every need met. All were safe and sound. The Maker was the only human in the new land, and he was good and kind. He mended broken puppets, made new puppets, and told them all stories. Then came Punch, who fancied himself the greatest of all puppets. He was jealous of the Maker's powers in creation, and one day, with a great hammer, he killed him. With the Maker's death, no humans lived in Maker's Land. But the flesh lived on, for Punch took the Maker's face and made a cruel new face for himself. That wasn't all he made either. Soon he had not just a new face, but 6 loyal puppet servants sewn of the Maker's flesh. These 6, whom Punch called his boys, stood beside Punch as he announced to all the land that he was now the king. He was Punch the Maker Killer, and his word was law. Punch and Punch's boys now rule Maker's Land with hearts of cruelty and black souls devoid of mercy. All of the puppets exist to serve them. All of the puppets toil for hours on end, making new clothes, new homes, new food, new toys, whatever Punch and his boys want. At least, almost all of the puppets do. Across the great lake of milk and cookies lies the small village of Respite. Judy, who once loved Punch but does no more, runs the village. She knows better than anyone the cruelties he is capable of. She knows the evil that lies in his twisted heart. In her little village, she runs a freehold of puppets that have escaped from Punch's clutches. They have avoided their terrible nutcrackers, fled the cruelties of Punch's boys, and made their way to Respite, where Judy's small group of free puppets look towards the day when Punch will be brought down and the Maker restored to life. For when Punch killed the Maker, Judy was there, and she caught the Maker's last tear in a thimble of purest silver. With this tear, the Maker can be brought back to life, Judy says. This is her fondest dream, and the Maker's tear is her most cherished possession. It is her last and greatest hope. Once upon a time, the sun rose over the city of Respite, and 7 renegade rogue puppets awoke from the small room they all shared as friends and companions. They awoke to hear a rapping on the door of the house outside of their room. A sharp, dedicated, pounding rapping, and someone calling to let them in, for they had news. Great, exciting news that could possibly bring an end, or at least put a dent, in Punch's terrible regime.
Hello, who's there?
Said Moira McManners. An answering cry was from one of the small hand puppets from the village. They all knew his voice well. It was Floppy the elf, and he did indeed have great news. Excuse me, could you please let me in? I found out a terrible secret that Punch is planning, and you all have been the bravest puppets I've ever known. I think if anyone can stop him, you can. Won't you please let me in?
Hi, welcome.
Moira, of course, the politest of all puppets, opened the door for their friend, and the little hand puppet Floppy the elf bounced his way into their room. He had bells that jingled on his hat and was always cheery, even though his face right now was quite panicked. I don't know if you heard, he said, quite frantic, but Punch is developing a brand new weapon to use against all of the people in Puppetland. He is creating a dragon. A great and powerful dragon.
The Vagabond!
Oh my.
That's what I thought. The Vagabond, and oh my, those were my exact thoughts.
This is terrible.
It is terrible, but I found out a secret. I found out that some of the pieces he needs to complete this dragon haven't been delivered to his castle yet. He still needs to carve out the heart, he still needs to find the eyes, and I heard that a special wagon escorted by some of the nutcrackers is going to be bringing one of the lights he found to be one of the dragon's eyes. It's a very strange light, in fact. Everyone says that it's filled with ever-burning paper, and that it will cast this amazing glow and demonic presence in the dragon's eyes that would strike fear into all the puppets should it be completed.
Floppy? Oh, hold on. Can somebody grab my flashlight? I'm standing in the...
How is it I do?
Oh, thank you, ladies.
Oh, yeah, I can get it. That's fine.
Together, the wonderful Marionettes shone a flickering old flashlight on their friend Bello, Bushy Brow. Now Bello, as a shadow puppet, could only be seen when there was light, and he seemed quite frantic to be seen and heard now.
Well, I feel like... Floppy, can you describe the light to me again? Go ahead.
Okay, it's got these very strange sort of magnets on it that he thinks can cling to the inside of the dragon, and it's filled with some strange ever-burning paper, and Punch is, after all things strange and magical, so he just heard about it from someone.
Everyone, that's my lantern, the one that I used.
Find it.
I need it.
We thought that sounded very familiar.
Floppy, where was the last place that you saw that? Where was the information? We need more.
The puppets who had arms clutched their pearls in a panic. Those who could faint did so right back onto their beds with sighs and dramatic emphasis, as puppets are wont to do. Floppy turned eagerly to his friend Bello and said, What was your question? I apologize.
No. I need more information. We need to find this lantern. It's the only way to keep me all lit up.
Oh, well, it'll be lovely. You're lit up. You look great, but that flashlight is flickering something awful, isn't it?
Oh, no. Can you see me?
Once again, the flashlight had gone out. Now the marionettes knew all you had to do was clap on the bottom. In fact, Kayla, the Cupcake Queen of Karate, had to be a little careful not to clap too hard. Otherwise, you got the batteries out again. Put them back in. Put the batteries back in.
Does it go this way or this way?
Oh, no.
I think it's this way.
I think
They go inside and they're not just like on the side.
I think it goes to the bottom.
Can someone help them? You know how I am with the
We'll
strings.
go over. We'll go over. Here you go.
Oh boy, I can't seem to see you at all. But what I can tell you is I promise, regardless of what happens here, we shall find your lantern. It matches the description every time you have told me. Oh, dearie me, the pleasure that would bring me.
Now, I think that perhaps Judy might know more. You've got, she's got her watchers of the watchtower, and she knows a lot of the information that comes in. And I know she might have seen where it went. All I heard was her talking about it in the ups that I decided to come around and tell you.
You know that I'm going to go straight to Judy. Bring the flashlight. I'm leaving.
We have the flashlight.
All right.
Though they could not see Bello, they were quite sure that he had taken off running. They followed him, desperately shining the flashlight around, trying to catch their friend in the light once more.
Bully!
Oh, there he was. They were so grateful to have been able to find him because Bello was their most fragile friend. Now all puppets watch after each other, but especially these rebels in respite. For one fewer of them is one fewer to take on the evil that is Punch, the Maker Killer.
Bella, you must be careful.
I'm gonna
we
try.
Only have one of you, remember?
Thank you all. Thanks for paying attention to me. But Judy, we need to get to Judy right now. Judy!
Where was she last seen?
Oh, probably in her home, I would assume. But I'm heading that way right now. Let's go.
It's accurate. Floppy!
You guys keep going. You guys, the ones with the legs move a little faster than you. It's fine. I'm gonna go tell some more people about the
Floppy, my boy.
what?
Dearie me, calm yourself.
Okay. Last I heard, Judy was in fact at the top of her tower. God, I'm sure you'll catch her before breakfast.
Are you all right? Are you sure you don't need any water or a snack?
Or coffee.
Of course, Billy Bean Can was very fond of coffee, and Floppy knew that if ever he needed the most perfect cup of coffee in all of Puppetland, all he had to do was ask his good friend Billy. Floppy thought for a moment and said, "You know what? I think after this is finished, we will celebrate with one of your amazing coffee concoctions, Billy. In the meantime, leave me! There's too much to do! Go! Save Lantern and help us all!" And
Indeed.
and so Floppy fell behind.
Thank you for your help.
Yes, thank you, Floppy.
I will lead the way.
So Floppy fell behind, leaving the other puppets to make their way up the tiny hill and up the stone staircase to Judy's home.
Judy, are you home?
I'll knock.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, there's a lot of us. I know I should. It's Moira and Kayla and Billy and Polly and Lisa Lee and Reginald and Bella.
Reginald?
We're all here and we need to talk to you, please.
Lisa Lee.
If
There
you're
was
not busy.
There was a tiny click, 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 click of little puppet heels on the floor until the door was opened, and there was the mother of all renegade rogue puppets, Judy. She was kind and beautiful, but heartbroken. Every puppet knew, every puppet in respite who she had taken under her wing, metaphorically speaking, as she was a human marionette with no wings to speak of. Every one of them wished her happiness and wished to aid her in the destruction of her former lover, Punch. She smiled on all of them and said, "7 of the bravest rebel puppets I have ever met. How can I help you, Moira? Come in, please. Sit, those of you who can. Stand, those of you who might. And I do have hooks for those marionettes who might want to rest their arms for a bit.
Thank you, that's very considerate.
Oh, you're welcome, my dear.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm gonna just step through here. I'm sorry, everybody. I know I'm kind of...
Bella, where would you like this flashlight to be put?
You can really just put it down for now. It's more about...
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Save the batteries.
Will do.
Oh, Bello, darling, if you stand... No, not the fireplace. That would be very bad for you. If you would stand next to... For a moment, Judy thought. And then she scrambled around and pulled out a jar of fireflies. They burned more brightly than most fireflies. And upon command, as she clapped her hands, they shone even brighter. She set the jar down next to Bello so he could be seen by all.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. I'm gonna go ahead and just rest right here. Judy, here's the deal.
Yes, Bello.
My lantern, I think we've heard of where it might be.
I did hear a bit of something. Of course, I didn't want to alert you right away because it may be an impossible mission to recover it, and I did not want to get your hopes up, dear Bello Bushy Brow. However, I can tell you this. Across the other end of the Lake of Milk and Cookies, near the canyon where we think the Candy Cave might be hidden, there is a small pathway leading out of the forest and taking you on a back road to Punch's castle. Word has it that several of his nutcrackers will be escorting a wagon full of, well, innocent puppets who have been bullied into following Punch's will. As you know, many had
The
been.
good kind of bully.
The bad kind of bully, indeed.
That is not bully.
Familiar, in fact.
Bully indeed.
Familiar, in fact, with Sir Reginald Floppy Button's airs, Judy poured him a cup of tea with a shot of whiskey, passed it on to him, and smiled sweetly at his wonderfully endearing sense of righteousness. She knew if any puppets could get it done, these 7 could.
Now, Judy, do you think my lantern will be with the puppets that have been captured?
I absolutely do. You know, several of the innocent puppets come and go from respite, and most of them, none of them have ever given up our cause. None of them have ever told Punch or his boys where we are. However, many of them have been bullied into doing tasks they would not otherwise wish. I do believe one of them may have stolen your lantern. And upon assuming it could ingratiate them to Punch and have him leave them and their families alone, they are bringing it to him as a bribe of sorts, as a gift, as a peace offering. I'm not sure which puppets it is. I'd rather not think about it, quite honestly, as I just want the best for all of you. However, it is being guarded by a militia of nutcrackers. Now, I know they're not quite as terrifying as Punch's boys, but they are a force to be reckoned with.
Do they know karate?
Unfortunately, my dear, they do. However, I fully believe in your prowess. You are a pink belt after all, are you not?
That's right, pink belt!
Joyously, Judy bopped Kayla, the Cupcake Queen of Karate, on her nose. I do believe you'll be wonderful. Now, they are traveling this evening down that path. You may want to get to them quickly, set up camp, figure out how to disrupt this plan of Punch's. If we can stop him from constructing this evil, heinous dragon, it may damage his morale. It may weaken him. He may start making mistakes due to his anger. And that might give our rebellion the opening they need to really gain some ground. Yes, Sir Reginald. Judy noticed he seemed like he wanted to say something.
They always have been cowards. And we know this. So we will show them exactly what they are. Will we not?
Here, here.
We certainly
Indeed,
shall.
Bello. Indeed. My queen.
There was a bit of a lackluster sort of cheer from half of the puppets. The other half looked uncertain and a little bit frightened about their odds. But Judy assumed that all of them would follow their friend Bello to the very end if necessary.
Well, Judy, I think we're gonna go ahead and try to rescue those puppets. Hopefully we'll get the lantern as well. Now, I don't blame them for stealing it. It is quite beautiful, and the maker made it for me special, so I understand, but anything that we can do to stop Punch really is the best thing. Now, I'll tell you this, I'm only really visible when I've got a light on me. We gotta carry that flashlight. Is somebody willing to do that for me?
I wouldn't mind doing it for you, Bello.
Thank you.
If that's gonna help you out, I don't mind.
I appreciate that.
Here, let us hand it to you.
Perfect.
The flashlight was passed into the marionette's hands, and they took it upon themselves to be Bello's guardian as they traipsed their way out of the safety of respite.
Thank you, Judy, for all the information. We're heading out.
You are welcome, dears.
Thank you.
Break a string.
Appreciate it.
We shall return victorious.
Thank you,
This
Judy.
I vow to you, Judy.
With lattes!
I believe that, Billy. Thank you, darling.
Bello, I promise you we shall recover your lantern. If it is the last thing I do, I will die upon that hill to recover your lantern.
Yes,
I promise
hear,
this to
hear.
you.
Well,
Yes, indeed.
Hopefully
Queen
nobody's going to be
Lizzie.
dying, but if we're going to be heading that direction, I'll make sure to protect you the best I can as well.
Oh, we are
You have my word, Bello.
Thank you. Now, I know you tiny finger puppets are, light and quick, but if you want, I can carry both of you on my back.
Oh, that would be delightful.
Nice, so we can all
Now-
stay together a little easier.
Yeah, especially because I'm not visible all the time, and I'd love to save the battery if you could on the flashlight.
Absolutely.
Feel free, turn it off, it's fine. Okay, come on up, ladies.
Can you help me?
Of course. If somebody, you might have to turn the flashlight back on so they can see.
Right, sorry. Here you go.
It's flickering again. Just soft taps. Thank you very much. All right, with those of you that have arms, if you could, toss them up there.
I would be honored.
I have so much energy. I can just jump right upon
Oh, my. That's very good. Thank you. All right, you can turn the light off again.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
All right, let's get going.
There was
I'm
a-
going to start walking.
There's a bit of a shuffling in the marching order as the puppets began to make their way. They found a small boat that took them across the lake of milk and cookies.
Water.
It was a long journey, and of course, Bello did have to be very careful, but the rest of them were able to dip and take a bit of a snack of floating cookies floating in the milk, and a sip of the milk itself, which is the sweetest in all the land. It was a good thing Punch didn't know about it, for he was very greedy for all things decadent and sweet. And if he knew that the lake of milk and cookies was there, he would be upon it in an instant. But no matter. The puppets traveled quite some distance to the edge of the forest, the place Judy had told them the captured puppets might be bringing their wagon. They fell into a line of silence as they walked, each of them thinking about the danger that might await them. After all, Punch's boys could be anywhere at any time, and while the Nutcrackers were easy to hear and see coming, some of Punch's boys could not be seen at all.
Okay, everybody. Now, I know the directions themselves. Does anybody remember where we're going?
We do.
Yes.
We do.
You do. Queen of Clowns.
That is us.
Yes.
We shall be heading across Milk and Cookie Lake
Okay, we done that part. Good.
to where the Candy Cavern might be.
Oh, so we're looking for a
It
candy
is still
cavern.
skeptical of
Does
the
anyone else
Where it
hear a
is-
funny rustling noise?
They all stopped. They listened closely, and yes, they did, in fact, hear a rustling noise. They looked in the trees. They looked on the ground. The puppets all looked at each other and then froze, making sure they were not the source of the rustling. And then
You do not have feet.
she said, stating the obvious, for not the first time, as hand puppets are often quite literal, being that they are meant for a head.
Does anyone think that we might be being followed?
Oh, dear.
Well, I hope
It's
not.
very rude to not announce yourself whenever you're following people. They should know where you are.
All right.
The lady is correct. Make yourself known, Brigand, or face Face my wrath.
I'm gonna put you down now and try to sneak around. Keep the light off of me, okay?
That might be wise.
There was another small rustling,
There.
closer and closer to where Bella was getting. A tiny shaking and a small growling. It seemed to be getting louder.
Is
and
someone
more
hungry?
insistent.
I'm gonna go ahead and sneak my... I'm by myself. Oh, I'm talking to myself.
Bello was quite used to doing this, as a matter of fact. As often, he had to speak when he was invisible so that others would see him. It was a habit he'd fallen into doing even when he was all by himself in the shadow puppet cabinet. But as he approached, he was sure there was a rustling, and he pounced.
Hello?
A tiny, tinier than usual finger puppet came rolling out of the tall grasses. A little bitty lion's mane and yarn all around its face, tiny little ears, and a much too long yarn tail dragging behind it. It was caught on the tall grass, hence the rustling. I'm so sorry. Who's there? Who's there? Sorry.
Hold on. My name is Bello.
The wind? Is it the wind?
No, I'm right here. Oh, no. Can someone bring the light?
Hi, little friend.
Oh, hello. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get down.
I'm just big.
I want to get closer.
Get down.
I want to get closer.
Hello.
I'm gonna go.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
I'm little like you.
That's a weird. That's a weird name, guys. That's such a weird name.
What's your name?
My name. He sniffles and whimpers a little bit to himself and gets frightened of telling strangers his name, and it's clear he's never seen puppets like this before. The most familiar he is with the finger puppets, although they are much bigger than he is, perhaps meant for adult fingers rather than he who is obviously made for a child's finger. He looks the shadow puppets in the eye and says, My name is Lenny Leo the Brave. Call me Lenny. I heard that there were some really brave adventurers coming to get my dad back. And I had some of the puppets who have gone missing, and Dad's there, and he's a big, brave lion, but I got lost trying to follow you guys, and you're much smaller from a distance, and now you're way bigger, and I don't know.
Lenny, where was the last place you saw your father?
He kissed me on the forehead before he tucked me in a couple of weeks ago, and then he said that he had a mission to do to keep us safe, and that it was all fine, and then he disappeared. And the next day I heard that one of the magic shadow puppet lanterns got stolen, and so I thought, and he never came back, and
Lenny. I know that you're uncomfortable right now. Do you want me to help you get out of that bush right there? Okay, now you standing completely still, all right? And I'm gonna come on over back here.
With a little bit of effort, the shadow puppet was able to free Lenny's tail. Upon finding he was free, Lenny excitedly spun himself around in a circle, his tail flying and hitting the close puppets in the face. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Now calm down. Now, I think we're gonna try and go ahead and find your papa for you if you'd like that.
Can I come?
If you want to, but let me be very serious. You're very tiny, all right? So we need you to be with the bigger puppets, okay?
Yeah, I'll teach you karate.
Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons seemed as though he had a different plan in mind for the small lion puppet.
Lenny Leo the Brave, you courageous boy, you!
It's all right.
How magnificent you've been, following us all the way here.
So high up here.
You have been incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Do you know this? Absolutely incredible.
No one's ever told me that before.
You are magnificent.
Do you want to hear a roar?
I would love to hear your roar for me. What a magnificent roar!
Wonderful.
Ferocious indeed. And now I need something from you, my dear boy. You have been magnificent following us this whole way. I would love for you to go back home. But when you go back home, tell them that we shall return soon with your father in tow, with the lantern in tow, with everything they desire in tow. We need that. Can you be that courageous for me, my boy?
Do you know how to get home from here?
Really big buildings up there. They're really easy to see.
Okay, perfect. Then let's go ahead and get going.
You
home,
see,
you know?
Lenny, someone needs to tell your mother that your father is coming home.
A sadness descended over Lenny as she said this.
Oh no.
Lenny hung his little puppet head, said, Mother went to Punch's castle and to be one of the workers there months ago, and she never came out.
Would you mind doing us a favor then? If you go back, if you could just let Judy know that you saw us, and that we were halfway there, and that we're doing great.
Okay.
If you could just take care of that for us, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay. I'll be brave, and I'll just promise me you're gonna get my dad back.
Don't you worry. We promise, Lenny.
He didn't do anything wrong on purpose, I promise.
Of course,
No
Lenny.
problem.
And know that,
Absolutely.
yes, and know that what you have is the most important mission of any of us here.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
At that, the little lion puppet jumped up and down, very excitedly, in fact, so excited that his tail got caught once more, and he had to be freed again.
Lenny, all right.
This time, if somebody with hands could do it, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there.
The grass split in an almost magical moment where one moment Kayla, the cupcake karate queen, was slashing at them and they seemed untouched. And all the blades of grass simply fell.
You're welcome.
That was amazing! How'd you do that? Teach me how to do that! And as the tiny finger puppet tried, he simply fell on his face as he had no arms or legs.
All right.
Moira, can you?
Friend.
No, it's fine. I'm just very excited to be part of the adventuring team. I'll go back and I'll tell everybody the good news that you guys are gonna get our families back, and you're gonna stop. You know who?
Okay. You go
Go ahead and
Judy
turn
first.
my flashlight
right?
off. We're gonna save them batteries. Let's kick
On
on.
pain of death, Lenny Leo the Brave, I promise you we shall return with your family.
You're gonna die?
No.
No, it's an expression.
Oh.
Just remember your mission, Lenny.
Lenny headed off after saying goodbye to everyone through the grass. They could hear him.
Thank you for helping.
Bye. They could hear him.
So long, friend.
Bye. They could hear him chanting to himself, trying to be brave. Remember my mission. Remember my mission. Halfway there, they were halfway there. Remember my mission. Gotta tell Judy they were halfway there. They were halfway there. Occasionally getting a little louder until his voice faded altogether, and they knew he was crossing the lake of milk and cookies once more. However, those taller puppets, as they watched him leave, noticed, high in the sky, above them, a circling spectral figure. Now, they had never seen Punch's boy Haunt before, but they had heard stories. Haunt was greatly feared by any puppets who plotted against Punch. He had never managed to find respite, but now, with so many rebels leaving the safe little hamlet and going on an adventure to quite so clearly undermine Punch's will, Haunt was searching. He was only a shadow now, but nothing else in all of Puppetland moved quite like that. The puppets knew they had to hurry.
We have to hurry. The scary boy is up there.
Yes,
They're all scary.
The scary,
Well, we're looking
spooky,
for
the spooky one that moves and it
right?
flies.
Let's go ahead, move through this forest and find that cave.
Let's
go.
I agree with
I'm
Bello. There
gonna
is
start
nothing that will
this
stop
gallop.
us from defeating
I'm
this
leaving.
brigand.
Let's move through.
Now, the legend of the Candy Cave was famous. No one had actually ever found it before. However, there were rumors about the landmarks you might find when you were getting close, and those began to appear quite rapidly as the sun fell. First, there was a tree that was shaped perfectly like a candy cane, and then there were some ever-blooming fire flowers that did not touch anything harmfully, but instead cast a warm glow on the area. Finally, everything started to take on a slightly pinkish hue, as the magic in the air thickened. There the trees were the hardest to get through. The darkness had begun to fall, and it was almost the nightest of nights. It was always night in Puppetland. There were times when it felt darker, times when it felt later, to all the puppets who knew their stories could only last so long. They listened, they set watches, and they waited for the wagon and the nutcrackers to come forth, all the while watching as Haunt circled nearer and nearer, knowing that if the rest of Punch's boys noticed Haunt, they would not be far behind. Haunt himself never did any harm, but rather drew Punch's other minions to the spot he circled.
Is anybody else getting sleepy?
Oh, we must stay vigilant.
I'm trying, but I haven't had cotton candy in like 4 hours.
Cotton candy. I'm gonna look for some cotton candy in the cave. I'm invisible. Might as well go ahead and start searching.
Try as he might, however, he still could not find the cave itself. Wandering through the forest, bushy Bellowbrow became quite lost, all by himself. Occasionally, his paper form would catch on a thorn or a branch, and he began to feel quite thin, quite more flimsy than he had before. However, his searching was not in vain, for he heard them then. He heard the sharp voices of the Nutcrackers. He heard the "Get on with it!" of the fiercest among them, the Nutcracker captain. He heard the squeaking of wagon wheels as someone was loading something up, and rushed back to tell his friends.
Guys, in this direction back here where I was just coming from, I heard something. It sounded like people getting into a wagon. Maybe this is a good opportunity for the smaller of us to come and search.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Ooh, yes.
Now, I'll be quiet. You know, just be careful in them woods, all right? I got a few scratches on me. But it's fine. If we walk slow, maybe we can, find out where they are.
Do you need any help?
Should the larger of us follow behind?
Yeah, that's probably a better idea. All right, I'm trusting y'all little ones, okay? I'm gonna let you go forward. Keep my light off. I don't want anybody
All right.
to see me.
Is that what you want? I can keep
Sure, this way, come on.
Let's go. Quickly.
Brigands will not escape us.
Well, us hand puppets will then follow behind.
Let us follow behind.
And these marionettes will take up the rear.
And if that's what works for you, then I'm okay with it.
All right.
Wonderful.
I'll try to maybe nuzzle y'all ahead in that direction. Is it?
Thank you.
Silence descended on the group once more, and soon they could hear, "Get on with it, you stupid little hand puppet!"
Oh, look over there. Does anybody recognize that puppet? What are they wearing?
A small, ragged hand puppet. Every one of them recognized as Henrietta Redbuttons.
Oh, guys, I think that's Henrietta. Henrietta Redbutton.
Yeah, I can tell because she has red buttons on.
Could puppets be given the ability to cry? They knew Henrietta would be weeping her button eyes out as she was being forced to help hitch up the wagon to, well, 2 marionette horses. 2 marionette horses who used to pull parade floats and be friendly, loved, well taken care of performers who brought joy to the hearts of children, now being forced into this labor, and they too looking agitated and much the worse for wear.
This is so real.
All right.
It
Now-
is real. That's why it's happening in front of
Let's
us.
try to think of a little bit of a plan. Right now I'm invisible, right? So maybe I can't see, but I can only really do that if there's one puppet around.
My plan is to make these brigands account for their crimes.
All right, well, what do we think we want to do? Just charge in? Or do you think
It's good.
Yes.
I don't know if I can start a fight.
Well, that's okay. We would start it first for you, and then you can join us.
Maybe we should keep our voices down.
Oh, that's
I would,
Well, maybe we can stop one of the wheels.
I would love.
You can chop wood, can't you?
That's right.
So if we can get her in quick enough, maybe she can chop one of the wheels. Maybe we need a distraction.
I will distract these brigands. Shall we distract these brigands?
They are very charming.
It seemed as though the hand puppets had a very specific plan in mind. So they set about spreading through the forest, encircling the wagon. The wagon was finally full, with no less than 6 innocent puppets. They saw Lenny Leo the Brave's father, a much larger finger puppet, perhaps made for a thumb, or 2 fingers at once. He was.
Hold it down a little.
Hey guys, I feel like I see Lenny's father in there. Now y'all time your puppets. Do you see any locks? Maybe you can unlock something.
Oh, I'd be happy to look. There's some locks.
True, but
Indeed, they do not have hands.
you do not have hands.
Oh, I have hands.
Does anybody see any locks?
As they spoke,
What was that?
the wagon, fully loaded up, with a "Hya!" from one of the Nutcracker drivers, began to take off down the road.
Hurry, we gotta get them before they get away.
I would like to rush out in front of that wagon. I think
He exclaimed bravely as he was offered
I
to
would
do.
like to do this.
We will save the puppets as well.
You may.
I will catch up. I'm going to run. Let's go. I will jump as fast as I
These
can.
wigs
Look wonderful for juggling.
The finger,
Karate.
the finger puppets fell
So much
behind.
for
The
stealth.
hand puppets hopped much faster than anyone would have thought possible without the addition of human hands. The marionettes pranced off, prepared to sing and dance and polite their way into victory. And Bellow Bushy Brow set off in search of lucks, things to sabotage, and generally tried to stay invisible for the duration so he could be sneaky.
Now you, wagon! I demand you pause for the time being, because we have something to say to you.
Somehow, the 2 hand puppets had managed to put themselves in front of the rampaging horses. Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons stood with one of his hands out, daring the horse marionettes to keep going. The horse marionettes, of course, did want to stop. The Nutcracker brought them to a halt just in case, not quite sure what was happening. He leaned down from his much taller seat and looked at the diminutive hand puppet with one cocked, painted eyebrow, permanently in that position as he had been made that way, and said, "What are you doing? You with only the arms and no bottom half of your body. Get out of my way!"
Oh, my lady.
How dare you speak like that in the presence of a queen?
Oh, Punch don't have himself a quo. As Lisa Lee, the clown queen, began to juggle, this particular Nutcracker was entranced.
Wonderful, isn't it?
He stepped off of the wagon and stared in awe. How'd you do that?
years of training with the people of my country.
Oi! You lot! He called to two of his other compatriots. You know, this one be a good one for the master's court. Get her in there! We can use her!
Oh, not so fast!
It is very impolite to try to grab people without their permission.
And yet, two of the Nutcrackers did swarm upon Lisa Lee, the clown queen, and grabbed her by her two arms. At which point she stopped juggling, and the first man's spell was broken. Oi! Yeah! Get her in the way! How'd you do that?
Oh no! Now I say to you, are you going to accost a lady, or will you grow a pair of buttons and fight like a puppet?
There were 5 Nutcrackers in total. 2 continued to guard the other puppets. They had not been given any other instructions. 2 continued to wrestle the queen into the back with them. And 1, the captain, the driver, turned to face Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons. And he grinned evilly, only it was not a grin. It was the of his nutcracker mouth, widening ever closer to the ground. It stretched so far it could fit an entire puppet in it, and his teeth within them were sharpened, pointed metal rather than wood. He laughed at Sir Reginald and went clumping forward, preparing to chomp him in his own mouth.
I believe I must hop as quickly as I possibly can over to the carriage.
Come for me, you brigand!
The Nutcracker went to snap Sir Reginald in his jaws.
Nutcracker, don't you want to buy some delicious 100% pure Arabica bean coffee?
For a moment, it seemed as though the Nutcracker would in fact snap Reginald in his teeth. Instead, he just barely missed and was caught by Reginald's far more powerful than it should be, but he just has arms. Punch! To the side of the face! His head turned and he saw this tiny, odd, coffee bean smelling finger puppet. Distracted momentarily by the promise of fresh coffee, for Punch never let them have the good coffee. Oh no! He turned his attention to Billy Bean Can. Opening his mouth wide once more, he could very easily swallow Billy in his jaw. And instead of lunging, looked him up and down and simply fell onto Billy. Now, with the ground in the way, he was not able to close his jaws. Just laid there, trapping Billy in a wood and metal dome of himself.
Oh, this is in the name of karate!
There was a moment of silence as the 2 wrestling the queen stopped, and the 2 guarding the carriage stopped, and the puppets in the carriage now it's their heads over the edge of the wood, and Kayla's resounding hi-ya sliced not only the silence of the wood, but the Nutcracker's head was severed from its body. His body wiggled around quite distractingly and disturbingly, quite frankly, although his mouth remained open and trapping the small finger puppet within his jaw. The other 2 Nutcrackers hoisted Lisa Lee, the clown queen, and threw her unceremoniously among the other puppets.
You're a queen! We cannot be treated this way!
The other puppets tried very hard to catch her, but as some of them were only finger puppets, they were smashed quite quickly. One of the marionettes did manage to catch her in his wonderfully jointed arms. He looked down at her and said, "A queen? You know, I've never had the pleasure of meeting a queen before.
Oh.
You are quite lovely. Might I aid you in your quest, milady?"
Oh, a queen never refuses the help of such a wonderful marionette.
Excellent! Well then, let us get this done. The marionette, quite excitedly, dropped the queen. Oh my goodness. Stood up, shouted to the other puppets, "Ha! The queen has come asking for our help! All of you scoundrels, we dance!" It soon became clear that the marionette's only real skill was flamenco dancing. Although it did distract the 2 other guards, so they turned to look at them rather than paying attention to the ensuing fight.
All right, marionettes. I'm here. Shh, be silent. I'm going to try to bite off these little... And I start biting them. I'm going to get these off right here.
And now, you brigands, you will have it!
And now that you are distracted, we shall grapple thee!
Confused briefly by the phrasing, one of the nutcrackers turned just in time to see a horrid sight of buttons and red hair fling itself at him from the cart. Now, it was a bit of a leap. However, the queen was able to brace herself on the wooden form of the nutcracker. She wrapped her arms around his wooden frame and listened in horror as his jaw began to creak open, closer and closer to her. The other one turned to the other marionettes. Seeing the flamenco dancing madness happening behind him, says, "You lot can do that?
Yes, I can.
Good, we'll take you then too, won't we?"
Oh, it is not polite to touch someone without their permission. Consent is important.
Sure, milady.
That's what I thought. You do not have permission.
Might I do this? And without warning, the nutcracker flings himself at both of the marionettes. Unable to dodge out of the way, they fall to the ground, and a crash of tangled joints and strings. There's a popping as one of the joints disconnects in Kayla. Briefly, she tries and fails to pop her arm back in as the nutcracker is laying right on top of it, his whole weight on her marionette body.
Get off of me! I can't do karate like this!
Instead, the nutcracker simply begins to open his jaw, preparing to take a bite out of whichever one of them he can reach
Kayla,
first.
if we push together, we might be able to get him off. We're pretty strong.
With a terrible grunting and poor Kayla only using one working arm, they managed to fling the nutcracker off of them. He rolled away into the grass, where he looked up and stared into the face of Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons, busy beating the ever-loving wood out of one of the other nutcracker guards. The nutcracker was unable to dodge out of the way. He was unable to move. He simply stood there, a wooden punching bag, as the hand puppet was much too quick for him. Finally, as he tried and failed to open his jaw, the nutcracker fell back, crashed to the ground, snapping his head open on a rock. The other nutcracker guard who'd been watching all of the puppets now turned away from the flamenco madness to the queen, who grappled his companion. Comes running up to her to try to pull her off. He reaches out his arms, unhinges his jaw, and lunges.
Watch out, my lady! Flamenco puppets, attack!
Reginald! I'm sorry, you said attack, darling? This is my attack. They will be devastated by my prowess.
You always think the marionettes are going to be so wonderful in the fighting and all that stuff, and it never happens.
My lady!
Reginald went springing into action! The queen and his only hand puppet friend! He catches one nutcracker in the back of the head and continues his flurry of blows against it like a mad puppet. Reginald does one thing, but he does it damned well.
You're goddamned right.
Meanwhile, the marionettes have managed to free themselves from this heinous puppet. They all stood, the 3 of them, staring each other down, a Puppetland standoff.
Well, this isn't working at all. You know what? Go ahead. Turn the light on. They need to see who's here. Thank you very much. And then I'm going to go ahead and you know what? I can't take this. I've been alone in the dark for so long. I need my lantern. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just run at this thing. Ah!
There is There was the briefest of panicked noises from the marionette horses. And then suddenly, they were free. The twine that had held them severed by the sheer panicked rushing of Bellow Bushybrow. However, the flashlight following him, one of Bellow's horns was slightly bent. However, the puppets in the wagon, seeing this, suddenly became excited and rebellious in their own way. They began cheering for the puppets who were winning the battle, and they began calling to the small finger puppets, "Hey, we can get you up here! Help us help you, and we can get this all stuff out, and we can all make it home!"
Thank you, Fritz. I'm stuck in the Nutcracker's head!
Oh no! Oh yeah, let me help you! Two of the hand puppets jumped down to assist the queen, and they all began to talk all at once. "Are you here for us? Are you here to help us? There's still two left! There's a weird thing we were carrying in the wagon! What about the horses? How are we gonna get home without the horses?"
Show me to the weird thing.
"Okay, let's go!" Two of the puppets help throw the tiny finger puppets out into the wagon, climb up quickly after them, and show them a strangely locked box with holes, little wooden gaps in its slats through which a light shined. Strange light that gave off no heat and flickered like flame, but the box wasn't burning.
Help me up on top of it.
They did so.
Oh, here, just help me. We'll bounce around until we can find a switch.
Oh, I'm great at bouncing!
The two finger puppets began to bounce with joy and vigor, and the other finger puppets began to help them. Meanwhile, Flamingo Dancing Dan was continuing his wonderful combination, convinced that he was doing the best job of everyone. The other hand puppets wobbled over to where the marionettes were squaring off against one evil Nutcracker. They stood behind him in a ring so the Nutcracker could not leave, and they began pounding on the ground in an encouraging stomp.
Marionette horses, I'm gonna need your help. Let's take this guy down. We're going, marionette horses. We're running forward.
You can kill the thing.
I believe in you, Kayla. I'll let you. You go ahead. You first.
Kayla, bringing in all the might of her pink belt training, went into a crane's pose and with a mighty shriek. Every puppet went temporarily deaf as Kayla, the Cupcake Queen of Karate's shout echoed through the forest. There was a silence. And then all the sound came rushing back as the Nutcracker crashed to the ground, split completely in half.
I guess we're not going to need your help anymore. You
One
can stay
more
here, horses.
Nutcracker, who'd been left to guard, looked at everyone, squared himself up bravely, and ran. Away, far away, shouting as he went that he would tell Punch the Maker Killer, king of all the land, of these heinous deeds by these 7 puppets. He swore vengeance and disappeared into the night.
Thank you for your cooperation.
You do that, boy, and tell him to find Sir Reginald!
Don't give him your name.
Sir Reginald, got it, thank you!
I look forward to it.
The Nutcrackers were not the evilest in the land, nor the smartest. However, these 7 puppets knew, and all the puppets in the wagon knew. Punch would know who they were by next morning. The innocent puppets shook in terror and began to panic, began to ask, what do we do now?
We must return to respite.
Respite? Some of them had heard of it, some of them hadn't. One, a lion finger puppet, hanging his head sadly, said, my son lives in Respite.
Yeah, we met your son.
I'm not sure I can go back and let him know I was a coward and that I sold out.
But
Hold on. I'm gonna lean my head right into this wagon and tell you something. Your son was very brave, And he was very brave, I believe, because you raised him. So don't you feel bad for one moment. Oh, what is that light right over there?
Finger puppets, through their bouncing,
Could it be?
had managed to make shaking, quivering, trembling of the entire wagon. One slat began to fall loose, then another, and another, till the case began to be nothing more than framework with a padlock unnecessarily hanging on it. Through the gaps, big enough for a marionette's hand now, they could see the fabled lantern bellow a bushy brows. Perfect, special made by the maker, magic lantern.
Yo, I think that's...
Bella, would you like me to help you get it out of the way?
Yes.
All right.
What my boy here meant to say, and meant to finish saying, was that you, my friend, are a hero.
You're right.
Look at what you have accomplished here. Without you and your compatriots'
You're a
help,
great
how
man.
could we have accomplished this feat of daring?
Right.
But, well, I just worry that our story is almost over. I haven't done anything quite heroic yet.
Can you try to open the box?
It seems like they've done most of the work, but I might be able to get one more
Yeah.
push in.
Do it.
And the larger lion puppet bounced his way up into the wagon,
Ooh.
stared down the padlock, holding on the biggest piece left that the lantern might get caught on. Took a step to the side, squaring it up, and threw himself like a finger puppet missile directly at the wood, shattering it on impact and crumpling into a piece of fabric and yarn, not moving.
Oh no.
The rest of the puppets gathered up this lion, laid him out carefully, said, "It's fine, he'll be fine in the morning. I'm not sure how many stories he's got left."
Well, don't you worry. We're gonna tell his story here upon Respite for the rest of his darn life.
But we have to get him back to Respite before
Let's
Tail's
do it,
End.
let's do it,
Otherwise, he
let's
might
do
not
it.
wake up at all.
We have an idea. We have an idea.
Yes!
Maybe our lovely marionettes could pull this wagon back along the path, and we could find a boat to get across the Milk and Cookie Lake to then get back to Respite.
I think they are more than capable of doing that, ladies.
We are definitely strong. It may take a while.
Would you like us somewhere specific?
You know what? Just throw it up into the air. It knows where it belongs. Do it.
Somewhere below the table, from somewhere below the land of Puppetland, a deep chuckle was heard. For yes, everything did know where things that weren't wanted ended up, things that were cursed in the down below. Somewhere there was a vibration of the devil himself laughing as the team took off into the night, met not long after by the marionette horses, who decided to rejoin their captors, and though they did not speak, they sensed that something good might be waiting for them in Respite as well. The team hurried back, quick to make sure that Lenny the Brave's father made it back home by Tail's End. As they entered the town square, they found quite a crowd gathered of old rebels and new innocents, and Judy herself watching as a tiny little lion finger puppet stood up on a pedestal in the center of town, proclaiming that the bravest puppets in the land had finally been found, and they had taken the first steps to bringing an end to Punch, the Maker Killer. The end.
I'm so tired. My brain hurts.
Okay, folks, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna be back at 9:15 for another tale from our 7 bravest puppets in the land. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
thank you so much for everyone for sticking through my first adventure. So I want to hear, before we start our next story, I want to hear from you guys what you thought of the Puppetland setting and system and John Scott Tynes' work. Everyone.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Tell us what you thought.
I'm tired now.
Yeah,
I'm exhausted.
Right?
That is
See, I'm less tired during this one, but I think that's just because of my style of gameplay.
Well, you are new to D&D, so like it's not, that was a new rule system for you. For everyone else, I think this is the new one for them because they've been playing D&D.
We're all like, when do I roll the dice?
Yeah.
The dice decide if I can do it. I don't have to worry about if I can do it or not. The dice just tell me.
My one problem that I had was like I didn't know when to talk. Because I was like, when's the right, like with D&D, you're like, what are you doing? And you can't do that. So you're legit like, does anybody else know now? Now's the time.
That might be an us thing.
No, I had a similar problem
gameplay.
because I wanted to, there were plenty of moments where I wanted to interject like a story element. I was like, they're doing so much dialogue, I'm just gonna let it happen. Like, you can't force that. Like as a DM, like Cody, when he'll just be like, he will just lean in and you go, oh.
No.
He's gonna tell a story thing. Like there's a moment of he can cut you off, like because you're talking out of character, because this is in character.
Right.
The narrator can't cut you off. Like
Right.
that's not how it works. So finding those moments of silence, I think we fell into a good rhythm there of finding each other's moments, or even talking all over each other. I imagined a book being when you see clips of everyone's sentences, you know, and bits of dialogue. So
I think the other thing was like the powers themselves, like what we could do. I was like, hold on, I can do what? Oh, let me recheck that. So as I'm saying something, I'm like, maybe that's not a thing that I can actually do.
Who had to?
I think that was a really weird.
I loved this.
Because I was thinking,
that was so
you know,
funny.
I'm coming.
My hero.
Right, I'm coming from, and those were all things I could actually do, and I was like, I guess. I'm coming from a standpoint of playing fucking, you know, D&D for way too long, and oh,
there is no too long.
Stop you! I'm decrepit. You know, I'm just doing this, and then playing a diceless system, which I've done before, but it's still jarring every time. Going in and then like doing these things which I think are just like, oh, this is a regular thing, but like, oh wait, no, this counts as like an ability. Like this is me basically.
Puppet fighting is a thing.
Yeah, this is like me basically casting a spell and me to be sitting here like, shit, can I do that? Like, fuck.
Yeah, it's not like you like fighters can do such and such. They still have to roll to see if it succeeds.
Yeah.
But they could try to do a spell. It wouldn't go well. But if they have a high enough intelligence, I feel like they can try other things. They can try to stab, even if they're not proficient with a dagger. Someone could try to stab with a dagger. A disadvantage. This is if you can't. You can't. You can't try to kick things. You have no legs. Like that's
punished,
not a
That was what I was
immediately.
struggling with. It's like, what can I do to be useful? Because I was like, in that fight, I was like, can I grab the wheel? No. Can I get people down? I can't get up there myself without somebody helping.
Yeah, I feel like the finger puppet thing is very difficult.
Finger puppets are hard.
They're hard.
I think it might, and correct me if I'm wrong, John. If you're watching, I'll send this to you later. It's fine. It encourages some like weird level of creativity, right? Because like I've had to wrestle this whole time. I don't know about you, but like I've had to wrestle with like not having legs. Have you had to wrestle with not being seen?
Well, and I'm just like the invisible thing. I definitely wanted that because I thought to myself, okay, give me something weird. Give me something weird. The lantern is a fun idea. Yeah. And like the flickering flashlight, I'm going to toss that thing. But like, it gave me something because the shadow puppets can move quickly, dodge things that are thrown at them turning sideways, kick things, throw things, grab things. I can do almost anything. Yeah. Become invisible if they're careful. Right.
In a weird way.
I can do that. But then I also cannot kick, throw, or grab things that weigh more than a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I cannot be invisible if I'm not trying to be invisible. You know what? So there are like the restrictions. I have to like find things. So it was really just the rules themselves. Like when I started biting on the horse reins, I was like, I don't know if I could do that on paper. So
And meanwhile,
That's why I ran at it.
And going by yourself, like especially because he's gonna get lost by himself and he's so flimsy and he can't see. There's wet in that's why you had to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course, meanwhile, we've got Cobra Kai over here.
Yeah.
Who's sweeping the leg?
cheeks
Who's sweeping the leg and scorpion kick like
when
Ralph Macchio
one of the finger puppets got caught in the friggin' mouth. I was like, I can't lift that.
Yeah, no one can say that. Like, that was.
I can't do anything with that.
It does. It is nice having arms. The weirdest part, like by far about it, is like if you kind of make a call that is within your capabilities. At least for what I did, I felt like most of my things would succeed, and that's weird getting used to from playing D&D so consistently. It's like, do you think it's gonna happen? And as long as it makes sense, like you're like, oh, that worked too.
Yeah, and
weird.
yet you can still take damage because she was only doing stuff that made sense for her. But in such a risky way of that it was still there's still the danger of getting injured. Yeah. Raise your hand if you had to shade in puzzle pieces on this.
Oh man.
Raise your hand if you had to do one. All right,
not.
2, 3. All right, good. We're only at 2 for people. That's the max.
It's that royal.
They have 16. I know. You picked that.
I know. I
brought this on yourself.
Are you speaking Yiddish right now?
I am schwitzing. I've decided that if I do it and like catch myself and save it, then I'm okay. But
it's when you say I can
exactly. Well, he asked me something like about when we were going to distract them, and you were like, "You can distract people, right?" And I said, "Yes, I can do that." And I went.
I
was saying it like, we can do that, like we can distract people, and then he was like, yeah, I can do that, and I was like, and I was just like,
I know. Well, it's also hard, I think, to find like the way that we placed ourselves tonight was pretty clever because
that was an accident.
Like, we didn't mean
it's not intentional.
Well, there you go. That's even better.
We didn't mean
the luck
to
of the draw.
segregate by puppet.
But like we're sitting next to each other that can like balance each other out. Like, what am I doing? What can I do? What are my ideas? Like it's kind of nice.
What can our type do again? Okay,
Yeah.
good. It's like druids sitting with druids. What spells do we know?
Oh, what can I do?
ask.
Damn.
Yep. So, any other feedback or questions before we launch into whatever story I'm telling next?
I'd just like to say that John's Got Times. This is a ridiculous fucking game, and I'm loving every second of it.
The creator, folks.
Crazy.
And shout out to Dan, the flamenco man.
Flamingo marionette.
Flamingo marionette.
There was one major flaw for me in the first half, and that was that I didn't have a hat.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you, Eduardo, for making my dreams come true, and now I have a hat. And I'm sure my character will be so much more useful this time.
In the immortal words of Paul and Oates, you make my dreams come true.
You're welcome.
Oh, exactly.
Excellent.
That was for me, about you.
Look, I'm here to dress people.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I fucking love Paul and Oates.
I just could have.
All right. Are you ready?
Is everyone ready?
Okay.
She's a man.
Let's do this one more time. I wonder what story I'm about to tell. We'll find out. Yay! Improv.
I like improv.
Once upon a time, Judy summoned her 7 bravest puppets, just fresh back from their latest adventure, rescuing several locals of respite in Puppetland, and returning Bellow Bushy Brow's lantern, magical lantern, to the shadow puppet. Judy had heard plenty of disturbing rumors about Punch and his boys and the Nutcracker's terror over the land. However, she saved the most dangerous now for these 7 puppets. She had started writing a book of missions to send these brave ones on. Perhaps she would add more to the roster one day, but for now, she knew she could trust them. She brought them in, poured them tea, gave them scones, sat them all down, those that could sit, and began to fill them in. I'm not sure how aware you are, Judy said, of the parades that Punch has taken to... showing, marshalling in town.
Parading.
Thank you, dear. parading.
You're
The
welcome.
parade's here.
You're
It's been
welcome. I'm
parading.
sorry for interrupting.
No, you're all right. It's never an interruption when I'm searching for a word. Thank you. He has begun to showcase his power and convince the puppets of Puppetland and Puppet Town proper, specifically, that they are happy with him in charge. As you know, when puppets are not happy, that is when grief comes out to play. A shudder fell over the room, as all the puppets had heard of Punch's boy, Grief. Terrible, terrible puppet. For Punch's first decree in the land was be happy all the time. Grief had an uncanny knack for sensing out any displeasure in any puppet if they got too close, and he would not hesitate to tear them limb from limb for disobeying. He was not a slow torturing puppet. He was one of rapid repercussions. Now Grief's favorite playing ground were parades like this, as everyone was supposed to be happy and everyone was going to be out in the same place at the same time, and he could tell if puppets nearby were not enjoying themselves. For the past several years, these parades had gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and this year, Judy informed them, Punch had planned on using this parade to unveil his great new dragon. However, something had stalled the dragon's production. Something had gone missing. A couple of other things he hadn't been able to track down yet. The dragon's heart, new eyes as one had been stolen, the spike for the dragon's tail. He was having a harder time than he would have liked, finding these pieces. So instead, this year, he decided to go over the top with his parade. And he was using it, Judy told them, as a massacre. Punch was specifically inviting all to join in the parade, knowing they would be in front of Grief, and knowing that if they disobeyed, the puppets would be killed in their homes. And if they appeared and were not truly happy, the puppets would be killed on the street. Judy looked grave as she turned to her 7 heroes. Now I know this is a bit more pressing than the last mission you were sent on. Your last tale ended happily and cleanly, but this one may be a bit more tragic if we don't succeed. Punch's parade, his grand 4th year parade. Has it really been 4 years since Mega died? His 4th annual parade is set to step off in a week. The anniversary of the day he killed the Maker. The darkest of all days in puppet history. Now, I do believe that Punch is a bit on edge since you sabotaged his last quest. She turned and patted Bella Brushy Brow on his head and fondly placed a finger on his lantern, smiled and winked at him, and carried on. Now, should anything go wrong, Punch will be most displeased, and when he is displeased, he makes rash decisions and mistakes. I believe that we might be able to sabotage this parade before it ever begins. For should it begin, nothing but shadow and death will fall across the land. And most, if not all, of Puppet Town may find itself unraveled piece by piece, burned to the ground for the shadow puppets, shredded for the finger puppets, de-stringed and G-jointed for the marionettes and upper hand puppets, left without any air within them with which to move, simply empty husks. Now, I cannot let that happen to the people of Puppet Town. Some of them are on his side, of course, but there are plenty of innocents who are not. I have several ideas for how to go about sabotaging this parade, but I think the biggest one is to deplete his nutcracker force and damage the floats, the wagons, the carts, everything he has decorated, to try to boost morale in the city and decrease morale among him and his boys. Do you think you all can do this?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Why, thank you, Bello. And the rest of you?
Indeed.
I'll always try.
As long as there's karate.
As long as there's coffee.
I'm sure
There's nothing that would keep me away from it, my dear.
We are certainly there.
there was a scattered agreeing and a couple of cheers and some excitement among the puppets as they got a list from Judy, carefully written in her beautiful penmanship with little hearts over every I and bigger hearts for every O. For her heart was full of love for them, if not for Punch anymore. The love had to go somewhere after all. She began to make a detailed agenda of where she believed she'd heard every float would be parked, every fantastical act would be housed, for he had parade performers and he had statues built to go on the floats and he had the finest polished marionette horses and, rumor had it, terrifying marionette horses made from pieces of other puppets. His power had grown stronger since becoming the false maker, and he was now able to build puppets of his own without using flesh. She warned them all to be careful. If a part of them should come off where someone might take it, they too might have their bodies enlisted in Punch's army without wishing it. With the list and a healthy helping of cookies and some tea in a thermos to go, Judy sent them off carefully, quietly, begging them to come back safely. And as they left, a tiny little lion finger puppet climbed to the top of the highest tower in respect and began shouting the praises of the almighty Magnificent Seven. Began calling
Steve McQueen.
began calling and shouting for everyone in respite to support them, for everyone in respite to wait for their heroic return, and to keep the secrets of the rebel puppets.
Well, really appreciate that Judy made that list, but I can't read for shit. So,
I can take a look at it if you like me to.
absolutely.
How polite of you.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we
Go
believe that
ahead.
the rest of us can read, so...
Oh, well, I'm just going to follow your lead this time around. Go ahead, if you can lower my lantern light somewhere up there. Just lower it a little bit. Oh, thank you so much. That's good.
Here, look, we can. It's a pretty big
There
list.
you go.
It is a big list.
Oh my.
Quite.
That is a rather sizable list.
The list was indeed rather
Colossal.
sizable. In fact, Judy had written it so large that the smallest of finger puppets were about the height of each letter. The marionettes, however, were able to unroll the almost comically large parchment, and parts of it trailed onto the grass behind them.
Oh, don't let it hit you.
Oh, we've got it, we've got it.
It'll take us years to read this.
Oh, what kind of
Good
floats
Lord.
are on
I'm gonna
there?
bounce from it. That read.
Do you have any specific floats on there that anybody might want to go for first?
There was, in fact, a list, the topmost of which caught these puppets' eyes and infuriated them. It was a float, which Judy had described as the lead float in the parade and processional, depicting a hideous, robotic version of Judy as an evil witch. Judy claiming that she didn't want anyone to be happy. Judy as the villain in this story.
Blasphemy!
Oh no, they
That
didn't.
is. I don't know if it's technically blasphemy because Judy's not like the maker, but it's very rude.
But she's not a witch.
No,
She's
I just
really
think,
nice.
it's terrible.
It's defamation.
It is close enough to blasphemy, as Judy is a fine woman and does not deserve such treatment.
What he said.
I'm curious, does it say anything in particular, like what it's made out of or anything?
Judy was unfortunately not entirely clear on the construction of the float. However, she did know where it was parked. It was the largest of all floats. She had been to the Maker's Castle before it was Punch's castle. She knew that one stable in particular was the only one large enough. It housed elephant marionettes. It was the only one that was made for more sizable inhabitants. So, Judy had written out in her careful but large hand exactly where she thought it might be, where she thought the secret entrance might be, should they choose to follow it. And with a dire warning, this may be the most heavily guarded of all floats, however, it would be the one that would infuriate Punch most.
We must get to this float.
But how?
Well, we believe that there is a detailed instruction right about here that explains where the secret entrance is.
Judy really thought of everything when she was writing this list, didn't she?
Or we could march up to the gates and challenge them to single combat!
Every single puppet, knowing Sir Reginald as very well by now, if they were able to tackle him, did. If they were just able to rub up against his knee affectionately and try to calm him down, they did. And the marionettes patted him on his well-coiffed head, encouraging him to be at peace and reassuring him that they would have vengeance on these scoundrels and vagabonds.
Reginald, it's not very polite to walk up to people's houses and try to fight them without any other kind of overture.
Yes, this mission requires stealth and quiet.
Oh, I'm very good at stealth and quiet.
Yes, I know you are, Polly. Yes. Most of us here are quite good at stealth.
It's a 50-50.
Quickly and quietly.
You're
That
not
is the way.
incorrect.
Well, I don't want to lie, but my lantern doesn't go invisible, just me. So if they're going to see a floating lantern around, maybe I should stay a little further to the back this time.
That's all right. Maybe we can hide your lamp.
Oh, that's
You
good.
can just put it behind one of us.
Okay, well, you guys would have to take it from me.
I think we're big enough.
Okay, that sounds fine. Now, it's got every burning fire inside, so don't try to put your hands in it, okay?
I wouldn't do that without permission anyway.
Very good.
It's yours.
Well, for now, we can keep it on. And what do you think we should do, Clown Queen?
I'm amenable to this plan. Although I do find it somewhat suspect. Suspect. They will have my vengeance in time.
You find suspect of who? Us?
No, of them. I just prefer to meet my enemy head on.
We know that you do, but we should all take precautions.
You're right.
That's right, but we gotta be really quick though too. We don't have that much time to get this done.
You are
That's
correct.
fair.
You're absolutely right.
So go ahead, give us a little plan, Isu. I trust you. Let's do it.
Lisa Lee thought and thought. And the semblances of a plan began to form in her mind. Her eyes sparkled as though gears were turning. She gathered the puppets in close and whispered her plan to all of them.
We shall head to the secret passage. We shall use our stealthiest members to unlock the secret passage door, while the rest of us take on the guards. So, if we cannot defeat these guards, we can all simply run inside and close the door behind us.
As she spoke, Lisa Lee the Clown Queen remembered one other thing. Judy had mentioned that the security around the castle increased during parade time. Any noises might alert the Nutcrackers, and they might be swarmed with more numbers than they could handle. So she stressed to them the importance of subterfuge and secrecy.
We all must be incredibly quiet. Reginald?
When in doubt, karate it out, right?
Yes, but a quiet karate it out. And a quiet bully.
I will absolutely quietly bully, but I would just like to say, for the record, my queen,
Yes.
that I agree with the cupcake.
It was perhaps the first time that sentence had ever been uttered in all of Puppetland. They all took a moment and looked at Reginald with confusion.
It is very reassuring that we're all on the same page.
Oh, absolutely.
But I believe that we have a short amount of time and we should head there post-haste.
We should!
And they did. Post-haste, they headed. They made their way once more across the Lake of Milk and Cookies, finding the same ferry boatmen they had utilized earlier, and Kayla, the Cupcake Queen of Karate, being ever so kind, helped him row his little boat, making friends.
Friendship!
Thank you for helping. That's very nice.
The ferryman, a hand puppet with magnificent arms of strength made for rowing, gave her a wink as she left.
My pleasure.
It's always nice to see you. You're very helpful for doing this. Come back and see me soon, okay?
Will do.
He blew her a kiss as they left.
Thank you, sir.
As they all continued to travel, they kept an eye out to the sky. Now, Haunt was not circling yet, so they felt a little safer out in the open. They were able to talk and laugh and clarify their plans in the week's journey to Puppet Town. And the almost week's journey to Puppet Town brought them in on the eve of the parade, knowing next morning all would be lost if they did not sabotage this float.
Now, I know we're aiming for a particular float. Is there any other float on that list with maybe a little less guards that we should also consider?
There were, in fact.
Here, I'll open it up.
She did open it up. Once again, the comically large scroll rolled out. Almost knocked over the finger puppets, but the finger puppets were quick and got out of the way very rapidly. There was a whole list of floats, spelled out in letters larger than necessary and words that Bello could not read, but the rest of them let him know. There were floats representing gold and all the wealth that Punch promised the residents of Puppetland. There was a float depicting candy and all of the treats and joys he once again promised the loyal subjects, although never delivered on. There was a float listing performers and jugglers and various dancers, including one that listed the talents of Flamenco Dan.
And
With
juggler.
a question mark, as she was not sure where he'd gone since the rescue. There were several smaller floats listed in wagons just for appearance, and then at the back, opposite end of the parade, from Judy herself, at the back of the list, the longest item of them all was Punch's own float. Whereupon he would stand and swing his hammer at a makeshift maker over and over again.
See, that's blasphemy. That's what blasphemy means.
You know what we should do? We should find a way to steal his hammer, so that way he can't swing it around.
Wonderful.
That's a good idea. Do you think his hammer will be on the float?
I don't know. I'm sure we can figure it out.
I mean, if it's like a prop, it's probably with it so that he doesn't get up in the morning and forget it.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Now
But it
we-
sounds kind of dangerous. I like it.
Wonder if all of these floats are in the same place.
I think some of them are in different ones. Because the big one is in the elephant one. But the small ones don't need to be in a place that big.
You're not wrong.
I'm curious. If that's where they put that float, then where are the elephants? Maybe we can use them to trample something here and there. That's not a terrible
Thinking
idea.
Bello.
Or we can use them as a distraction to get the hammer.
That's also good. You know what? I think we should try to look for the elephants first. Terrible idea? Good idea? What do you guys feel?
Grand idea.
Very
I like
good
it.
idea.
I'm looking at you, Rachel.
Honestly, Bello, I think it's a fantastic idea.
All right. Let's go ahead.
By gum, if we can accomplish this, I feel like we can destroy the entire floats.
Well, we're going to try.
As the puppets approached, the gates of Puppet Town drew nearer. Now, there were still several puppets out and about on the street, and, strangely, no Nutcracker guards to speak of. Puppets realized they must all be at Punch's castle, protecting the parade floats and preparing for morning. Without incident, the puppets were able to venture through Puppet Town, occasionally seeing the face of an old friend, someone who had not managed to make it to Respite, or who had chosen Punch's side in the battle. They waved occasionally. They sometimes wanted to stop and make contact with their old companions, but realized there was too much at stake, so they pressed forward to the looming presence of Punch's castle, once the Maker's Castle, his most detailed creation in all of Puppetland. Beautiful, with towers and spires and flags that used to be bright and colorful and blow in a wind now hung limp, tattered and blackened. The stones themselves looked darker and tainted and overgrown and unhealthy. The very sight of this castle struck fear into the hearts of the puppets, many of whom had not been back in Puppet Town for quite some time. They don't remember it being this bad when they left.
I don't remember it being this bad when we left.
You know
Yes,
what?
it seems much
I
worse.
agree with you.
We don't
It
have
does
a-
look kind of sad. Did you see Mary? She looked kind of depressed. Just saying. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and I think I need to get rid of this lantern. Do you mind if one of y'all marionettes take that from me? Alright, I'm just gonna put right there. Yeah, just turn it off. Just lower it a little bit.
With some assistance, they were able to remove Bellow Bushybrow's lantern from him, and the bison shadow puppet disappeared into the night.
Where'd he go?
Don't worry, guys. I'm still here. I'm gonna follow your lead, okay? Not going too far.
I do so love that trick.
It was with a childish joy and still a spirit of vengeance that Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons led the way to Punch's castle. As they drew closer,
Right
however,
behind you.
with Lisa Lee the Clown Queen ever whispering shh in his ear, they noticed the shadows on the ramparts. Dozens of them. Many dozens of them. They heard the telltale marching in time of the Nutcrackers. And then they noticed a shadow that didn't look quite like them. A hulking, massive, amorphous shape seemed to shift as they moved. Taller than all the Nutcrackers, with a pointed head. None of them had ever seen him before, but they'd heard stories of this boy. This hulking, terrifying boy called Grief. And they realized if they thought unhappy thoughts as they approached anywhere within the castle, they would be found. In a panic, they realized that the fear and unhappy thoughts were setting in, and Grief stopped in his march on the ramparts and began to turn and look.
Everyone think of something that makes you happy.
Delicious coffee.
Hey,
Please
you know
and
what?
thank you.
I really like your hat. It looks really nice
yes.
on you. That tutu you're wearing looks lovely. You know what? Sometimes I really do think, Reginald, that you, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar.
Coffee cup.
Why, thank you, my good sir. I have been waiting so long to hear you say it.
Lisa Lee, your subjects respect you highly.
Oh, they do.
Oh, they do.
I'm just so glad that Judy had the forethought to let us know how to get into this castle on her paper that she gave us.
We wouldn't say her name so out loud.
I think you much more quiet than you are.
What brings me the most joy is, of course, vengeance.
As the puppets began to compliment each other, remind each other of better times, got almost tipsy with their laughter, remembering these joyous things, Grief turned back to his path. However, A handful of the nutcrackers stopped, seemed to be listening. And then they too went back about their marches as the giggles and the puppets subsided, and they all remind themselves, quietly, to keep happy thoughts in mind.
Quiet, happy thoughts.
The chant took up among the puppets as they marched. Closer and closer.
Quiet, happy thoughts.
Sneaking to where Judy said.
Quiet, happy thoughts.
That the secret entrance was.
Quiet, happy thoughts.
And then a terrible thought struck all of them. The secret door wasn't there.
Happy thoughts.
Quiet, happy thoughts.
There's another door.
So the door is here.
Maybe it's just like a really good secret.
Why would Judy send us to a door that wasn't
Which means we revert to the original.
No. Original. We did earlier mention those elephants. Maybe we can snip out a little bit of elephant dung in there.
Does anyone smell anything?
I don't.
I smell myself and it's delicious.
I wish I smelled like coffee like we always want.
Well, okay. So this is the door that's leading to the big old. And I'm gonna take a step back here for a second. This building looks right, but the lights aren't on, and nobody looks like they're protecting the place at the moment. I mean,
At that moment, Bello Bushy Brow, as he took a step back and to the side, felt a slight draft. Coming from nowhere in particular, because there was no wind. But there was a draft coming from the wall. Somewhere. Somewhere there was a draft.
Do you remember we saw the limp flags? There is no wind. Where is this draft coming from?
Oh,
I'm
good
coming this way,
idea.
Billow.
Ooh, that way? All right, I'm gonna follow you. Go ahead.
Oh, it's chilly over here. Is anyone else chilly?
We are chilly.
Would you like for me to see if maybe there's a gap or something?
Maybe you
That's
could
a
try.
great idea.
Maybe the stones weren't always here, and I could pull it out.
Well, you got my lantern. You can light it just a little bit to help you see. Go ahead and try.
Would you like me to
While
hold the
you-
lantern for you while you do that?
Sure.
While you do this, I shall defend you.
Thank you. That's very considerate of you.
That we will allow.
With Sir Reginald Floppybottom standing with his back to his companions, prepared to beat the ever-loving snot out of any speck of air that looked suspicious, Moira McManners began to touch stone at a time, one stone after another, until, suddenly, the realization that some of these stones didn't look unhealthy. Some of them looked brand new. Some of them did not match. Some of these things were not like the others.
Maybe let me see if I can pull one of them out.
With a
With my
grunt,
strong marionette arm.
with a grunt, she tried, but even her strength was not quite enough. She could feel the rock budging. She could feel it moving, but she needed a little bit more.
Maybe if we all work together.
Yes.
Excellent idea.
Puppets lined up in a line behind her.
Puppet chain.
Although really, as they pulled, it was quite clear the only one doing any real help was the other marionette. However, all of the puppets felt good about themselves as one big pull of the puppet chain brought several stones tumbling to the ground.
Oh, so useful there.
Did not
Thank you all for helping.
That was pretty loud, though. I'm going to take a look around the corner and see if anybody heard
Rush
that.
inside.
Going quickly.
Yes,
Quick, Willow went to look. He did not see anything quite yet. However, he thought he heard the groan of grief. Still confused, still thinking he sensed something unhappy, but not quite sure where it was.
I love bricks and animal walls and all those things. I'm walking back slowly, so nobody I'm happy about. Look, guys, the grief might be around the corner. I'm doing all the happy things.
You're very perceptive,
I
It's
would
very helpful.
I would be delighted to face him in single combat.
Joy when you don't know it.
You see a way inside, can
There was, in front of them, a long dark
Can't
tunnel.
resist a job.
A little bit moist on the walls, from the runoff of the castle above. The marionettes had to duck slightly, as they were much taller than the rest of the puppets. They made their way quietly using Bellow's lantern light to light their way through this winding tunnel. Bouncing as they went, the finger puppets did, and the hand puppets waddling. Careful never to fall over too much because it was uneven ground. They all made their way until suddenly the tunnel opened before them, and right in front of them was the massive wheel, taller than two marionettes standing upon each other's shoulders, of a float. They could hear somewhere also the stamping and skittering of not just elephants, it sounded like, but several creatures. This might, they thought, be more than just an elephant stable. This might be where all of them lived now. The walls themselves seemed to have been, at one point, all uniform, a smaller room, but to store the floats. This monstrosity of a float especially. Punch seemed to have cleared out part of the area. In his attempt to wall up the secret passage, however, he was less than perfect. But this amphitheater, this chamber, this massive space held not just one float, but 3 large floats. And again, the sound of agitated creatures somewhere nearby echoed off the walls. They knew someone was there. They were not sure how to feel about it.
Hey. So, I'm gonna leave my lantern with you guys. But if you can light it just a little bit, me and maybe the tiny ones can like take a few steps forward, maybe see if we can see old friends or maybe the elephants themselves and try to release them.
That's
what do you guys think?
Happy thought.
Yeah,
Indeed, that makes me quite happy.
You're right.
Awesome.
What do you
I
think?
agree.
Yes? All right, let's step forward just a tiny bit. Thanks for lighting that a little bit lighter.
We got the big scary Judy head.
Right, you see
And
it,
then we have-
okay?
I think that's probably the one that Punch is gonna ride
Oh, the hammer, right?
Yes, this would be more
on. The one with
accurate.
the hammer. I don't know what this other one is. It looks like it's depicting the ambiguous lives of domesticated animals.
In fact, Moira was not wrong entirely. The narrator needed a moment.
One more time.
Lives of domesticated animals.
Yes.
One more time. What was that you said?
It looks like it's depicting the ambiguous lives of domesticated animals.
Ah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moira burst into flames. Moira was not wrong. In fact, as she went to investigate, she noted that she was not entirely wrong. There were creatures of all kinds in cages on this float. They were not elephants in their pens. They were elephants trapped. They were marionettes of all kinds. There were finger puppets. There were shadow puppets of animals dancing across a screen, unable to get past the limits of the screen itself. All of them, this magnificent menagerie, trapped forever. Running around in circles in a small cage, panicked, was a tiny dog made of yarn, yipping quietly. Too far to see any of the other pets, too far away to talk to any of the other animals, clearly desperate for companionship. He locked eyes with Moira when she rounded the corner, sat back and said,
Hi, small friend.
again, he ran around in a circle, excited to see someone who didn't look like they were going to hurt him or cage him. Leaned up on the bars of the cage and started trying to lick her through it.
You're all alone up here. It's okay. I'll be your best friend.
Hey, what? Do you see anything else? Bring the light over here a little bit.
Here.
Look, I know we got all them other floats, but if we can release some of these people, they can help us out. Okay, all right.
Not only that, it could cause a massive distraction.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Let's look for locks or something. Look over here. I'll take the corner.
Agreed.
Yes,
The
let's
dog
let them
continued
all
to
out.
whine.
Here's something familiar.
It's okay. Hey, we're gonna make you laugh. It's okay.
I run up to the cage.
As Polly Purple Yarn ran up, the dog sat, stared, cocked its tiny yarny head, and lost its tiny canine mind.
Oh, we gotta keep it quiet.
Give me a good boy.
There was a
We're gonna get you out, I promise.
glint of wonderful affection as the dog saw Polly and tried its most desperate attempt to crawl its way through the bars at her.
It's okay.
All right, we gotta get them out of here. Let's go ahead. I'm looking. What do we see? I'm this over here. No, I don't like that. Look, guys. Look, that's it. Give me my lantern.
They scrambled in vain in the dark until suddenly the light flared to life, illuminating quite more of the cabin than they would have expected. It was a rather special lantern after all, and the Maker's light shone with a warmth that calmed every animal. They all sat and turned to the source of the light. And the puppets realized, with the Maker's light in the room, these animals would listen.
Now, is this a key lock or is this a padlock of some
That's
kind?
what you're focused on right now. Look at the majesty.
I do so love the Majesty, but but I'm quite curious if we can get the Majesty to work for us, Majesty.
Reginald, of course.
Yeah. Well. You're tall enough to reach a lock. What kind of lock is it?
I believe it seems to be
Sir Reginald, floppy buttons, in a moment of unnatural calm before him, focused on the lock, stared at it, inserted his hand into it, bravely, of course, not knowing what was within, and pulled. Several of the gears simply fell out. The lock was not very well made. It was mostly there for show, they realized. After all, who would be stupid enough to break into Punch's castle?
Oh, my. Well, open it.
bully.
With the shout, all of the animals began to rustle in their cages once more, excitement filling them. Still more or less calmed by the Maker's light, but ready to be free. They looked at this puppet who could open locks, reaching out to him with their trunks, with their heads, with the snakes slithering in circles around their little mechanical cages.
Clown Queen, do you think you could do the same?
I believe we could.
Marionettes, can you also reach in there? Remember, get these locks out real quick.
Maybe some of the bigger ones.
Okay.
My fingers
Let me
might be
know
a
when you
little
need
big
me.
for
I'm
some
here
of
with
them.
my dog.
All right, well, I've got my lantern on. Look, does your dog have a lock on it, too? All right.
does.
All right, well, then, get on my back. Let's see if you can get up on there.
With some effort, Bella Bushy Brow and Polly Purple Yarn managed to get Polly face level with a lock. It was not much of a lock. And in a moment of extreme affection for her dog and desperation to free him, Polly shoved herself into the lock, wiggled around until the bolts fell. The dog pushed his head against the cage, opened himself, and ran up to her, rubbing all over her face with his little yarn body.
Good boy.
Running around where her feet would be if she were a footed puppet. In excited circles.
All right, guys, I think we can do this. Go ahead and just grab a lock and see what you got.
You're absolutely right, Bello. My lady, shall we free these beasts?
We shall, Reginald. Rampage, my love.
In a poetic dance of flicking gears, falling metal, and the excited cries of freed animals, the show that was hand puppets freeing the menagerie began to unfold in the float den. in the float antechamber.
All right, animals.
This ambiguous life of domesticated animals float was quickly decimated into a terrifying showcase of empty, slightly swinging cages. Open, unlocked, strangely ominous. The animals waited for instruction as the Maker's light continued to glow.
Welcome, my dog.
But a small rabbit, in particular, hopped up to Moira McManus. He was wearing a little bow tie. He might have been, they thought, part of a magic show at some point. But other than that, he was entirely white, armed with one large patchworked carrot that he was never able to eat, for it was not real. But he hopped up to her, his ears drooping in curiosity, hopped onto her foot, and sat there, comfortable and ready to listen to her.
Hi there, small friends.
Good. His ears went back and forth. He nuzzled a little bit against her marionette leg. This rabbit, too long stuck in a cage, had found a friend. However, the rumpus of the animals being freed, the ruckus of the animals being freed, yeah, he had caused a shift outside of the massive double doors that were the main entrance. They could hear footsteps. They could hear muted conversation behind the wood of at least two deep voices. Puppets realized with a panic and fear that they knew would call grief to them in a matter of minutes. They were running out of time. Their story might come to a close quicker than they realized if these doors opened, and they weren't finished.
Let's go, George.
Quick, animal friends, has anyone here seen a really, really large mallet? If you have, run towards that direction.
The animals stared at her for a moment, unsure what mallet meant, she realized.
Like this.
Hammer.
Like this.
And as the puppets who had arms began to gesture what that action was, one of the animals, a tiny patchwork puppet otter, slithered his way forward through the menagerie crowd.
Little
Looked.
otter, can you help me?
Nodded, scampered to the far float. He crawled up, he disappeared into the workings, and appeared perched on top of the false maker's head. It was a horrific sight to behold. Punch had made him as a makeshift facsimile of the old maker who was kind and sweet. This one, however, was horrific and evil and mutilated and wrong. And lying next to him, as the otter pointed out by pointing his little snout, was an overlarge, wicked, hideous hammer. They had heard stories of Punch's own hammer. They knew this was not it, but this one would do the trick.
There it is.
We have an idea. Bello, these animals will follow this lantern, correct?
Yeah, if I turn up the heat, they'll definitely like it.
Then we propose that you shall run to that float. The animals will follow, destroy everything in sight, and you can grab that hammer along
Well,
with
you
some
know
of these
what?
animals.
This is a great idea. I ain't gonna wait. I'm gonna start gathering now. You big old elephants, you follow me. That's it. I'm going.
And so Bushy Bellow Brow did, making
go get
friends
the
with
hammer.
every animal.
Go get it.
No, all right. Hey,
He's going to...
yeah, it's too late. I'm already going.
All right.
We shall go to the other float and destroy what we can before it's too late.
Yes, let's go. I'm very good at bouncing.
Absolutely. I know there's gonna be some cacophony.
Can he pick up the hammer?
Oh, perhaps I should pick up the hammer for you.
The otter,
Come on with me.
the otter above shook his head at the little shadow puppet, realizing even as an otter that was not strong enough to pick up this massive hammer. He crawled back down, landing on the hammer itself, and waited for Kayla, the cupcake queen of karate, to pick up the incredibly heavy hammer.
Shitay away! Here. All right.
Yeah, can you pick it up? It seems kind of heavy.
It's a little...
We might need a little bit of help.
She did indeed have to drag the hammer.
Karate powers?
With a great strength. She managed to get it up, but realized she would not be able to swing it. It took all of her strength just to keep it upright.
Oh, this is heavy.
No, maybe we could take it away.
And she would have to leave very quickly, lest she drop it, make a sound, and summon every guard in the castle to her.
I can't hold this for that much longer.
Elephants.
May I help you?
Yes, please.
The elephants started to follow Bellow Bushybrow. Not sure what was happening, but they knew something grand was coming. They laid in wait, elephants, and horses, and snakes, and tiny mechanical puppet birds, and cranes that were marionettes, all waiting, staring at their shadow puppet bison leader and his lantern, waiting for instruction, as the other puppets headed to Judy's float to do what damage they could.
Yes.
My dear, we know that we said to keep stealthy and be quiet. But now, I want you to destroy.
Shall we wreak havoc? Shall we wreak havoc?
We shall!
Havoc
Then let the dance commence.
was wreaked in an incredible display of fists and fury.
And bouncing.
And bouncing! The two hand puppets began to tear every piece off of the Judy float. And the finger puppets found their own way to be useful, something they had never realized before. They were able to fit within the workings of the float itself, they discovered, and disrupt the very mechanics that made the thing go.
I knew it!
I have to bounce in this gear right here.
I'm going to slither into this gear and dislodge it.
And they did. And they did, bouncing and slithering away as the two hand puppets punched and punched away at the Judy float.
All right,
Take
we're
that,
coming
fake
over.
Judy.
All right, everybody, follow me. We're going over where that big old hammer is. Charge!
The animals began to swarm to where the two marionettes were wielding this massive hammer. The noise inside began to grow, and the guards on the outside of the doors were trying to open it. But one very, very clever turtle wedged himself right by the door. However, he couldn't hold it much longer. They realized the puppets were aware suddenly. Their thoughts weren't happy anymore. They could feel grief coming. They could hear him. The nutcrackers could hear him. The nutcrackers were calling to him. They could hear 3, 4 nutcrackers outside. And they realized they were not going to be able to get away with this. Someone was going to know they were here. They had no choice but to make a bold, horrific, distracting stampede of an escape.
All right, everybody, look. I know we had fun destroying this float, but I think it's time to go home. And I'm looking right at them doors. Come on, everybody.
With a craze in his voice that could not be mimicked by his eyes because he was solid paper, that they knew would be there if he had more features. Bellow Bushybrows led the charge. The animals followed him, and the turtle, reading the writing on the wall, slowly began to inch out of the way. As he did, the nutcrackers began to push, clang, and one of them burst the door open so hard the poor turtle went flying across the room.
No.
Reginald, save that turtle.
In a moment of vengeance that almost made the puppet glow with a holy light, Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons sprang into action.
Not my turtle! You fiend!
Though the animals were prepared to stampede through the open door, Sir Reginald Floppy Buttons beat them to it. Slipping through the crack in the door before the animals were able to, he began to wail on the nearest nutcracker. Shocked, not realizing quite what was coming for him, the nutcracker fell into his companion, who fell into another companion, like dominoes. Quickly, they were all laid out on the ground, and once the door was quite open enough for several animals to come through, The Nutcrackers began to stare in fear and cry for grief even louder. There was a hum in the air, and a strange sound that was a combination of laughter and tears and agony and ecstasy. The puppets knew grief was here, and if he caught any of them, he would tear them limb from limb. Quickly. They didn't have much time.
Well, now's the time, everybody. Hey, I'm gonna start. Elephants, you know what to do. You know you got it. Loud noises. Woo!
We must escape now. Throughout the way we came.
Throughout the way we
shall
came.
run as fast as we can.
We trust that the animals will go towards these attackers.
I believe in them. They're doing a good job.
Yes, let us go to the secret entrance.
The animals tried. The animals tried to make it through the doors, but the doors were still not open wide enough. They began to bottleneck as the large double doors were meant to be opened much farther than they were. A couple of them were able to slip out, but the elephants got caught.
I see a lever.
She did. There was one. No one else had noticed it because it was at finger puppet height.
But I go at full speed. I think I can press it hard enough.
Polly, Purple Yarn, steeled herself, looked at her dog companion at her side, who looked up at her, and with a cheerful yep of approval, the two leapt. They landed right on top of the lever. Did not look like it was going anywhere until suddenly, thunk, the doors flew open. The rest of the animals went charging through at the Nutcrackers, who had still not managed to recover themselves quite. The Nutcrackers were trampled, and Sir Reginald Floppybottins, realizing that he was alone in a sea of menagerie, looked around for his companions.
So they seem outnumbered.
For a moment, he considered what to do. Should he follow his companions back the way they came, where he knew they would be escaping now? Or should he stay with the animals and sort of trample over these rapidly dying Nutcrackers?
Well, I'm kind of leading the charge here, guys, so maybe I'll turn back. Reginald, what are you doing in here?
Reginald, you know that this is not the true challenge for you to face.
She shouted, escaping through the secret tunnel on the other side of the antechamber.
There is a better challenge tomorrow!
My lady!
Sir Reginald Floppybottom said, still at odds with himself. Should he protect his friends? Should he go with them? Or should he have his vengeance right here on this spot?
You said the turtle must escape. And so it shall. Begone! I will meet you when the time is right. Come for me, Grief, you coward! I shall see you in single combat. If you have seams for it.
Reginald.
As Grief began to circle, as Grief swooped in, he suddenly changed path. For this puppet was much too happy. His companions, escaping without him, were not.
There it is, yeah. That's this bitch.
Oh, Reginald, we've left him behind. We couldn't be unhappier.
Well, he's such a wonderful fighter. Like, I'm sure he'll be okay.
We hope so.
As Grief began to
I
circle,
am killing it.
as Grief began to circle, Bellow Bushybrow noticed its change of course, and in a panic realized it was heading for their friends.
Okay.
Tried as he might to encourage Sir Reginald to grab the turtle and run with him.
Reginald, the turtle. Come on, buddy. Let's go. You know what? Take your happiness with you. Come on. Look at the turtle.
We'll find him.
Come on.
Where has he gone? I can't tell where this fucker is.
Looks like he's going in this direction. You know what? I'm gonna brighten my light a little bit. Woo! Okay, you see. Grief, I feel it, but I don't want to be there. The sadness in this. Let's go!
I will ride you then, and we shall be gone.
Or I'm made of paper, buddy. I think I can carry.
but I can light the way. The tunnel. You remember the tunnel, Reginald?
I do so love the tunnel. Light the way. Bring us there, and if grief should meet us, he shall meet his end as well.
All right, follow me, buddy.
As the light began to glow, the animals finished trampling no less than 6 nutcrackers to their
God damn.
splintery doom.
They are monsters.
Turned, sensing the light like a beacon, and charged back to follow their companions through the secret tunnel. Those that could fit. Those that could not, the elephants, the one giraffe, turned and ran off into the night. But the smaller creatures, those who could, even a couple of the miniature horses, managed to follow these puppets. They're following a light as bright as 10,000 candles in the wind.
I'm singing a song. Happy got animals with me.
Reginald, there you are. We're all so happy to see you.
We've never been filled with more joy than to see you again.
You got your puppy. Let's go.
You know these bastards couldn't keep me away.
We do know now.
As the puppets began to flee into the night, excited, loud, victorious, leading a menagerie of strange and wonderful puppet creatures, there was a horrific, furious scream from the top of the tower. A couple of the puppets turned back as they fled to the edges of Puppet Town and noticed from the tallest spire of Punch's castle, the form of Punch the Maker Killer, screaming into the night, furious at what these puppets had taken. He shouted for his guards. He shouted for Grief, but the puppets were much too happy for Grief to approach right now. Instead, Grief began to circle the tower itself. The puppets knew the legend. Grief could not approach Punch himself, for Punch could never be happy. But when Grief got too close to him, Grief went on a rampage of his own, whether or not it was deserved. The puppets in Puppet Town had to be very careful tonight. Sir Reginald turned to shout back at the form of Punch the Maker Killer one last time before they exited the city gates.
And you can know it was Sir Reginald!
Once more.
Floppy buttons!
We're just going to thank you.
Once more as the puppets returned to respite, now with a small army of creatures. The marionettes dropped the incredibly heavy hammer into the square. All of the puppets took a step back, a breath. It was Punch's hammer. It was horrific. It was evil. It was cursed. It doesn't belong here. It was quickly explained to these puppets, of course, that this was the one from the float. This is not real. It was a symbol. But it was a symbol of the destruction that was coming for Punch. Tiny little Lenny climbed once more to the top of his tower, or to the top of his platform, and proclaimed the great deeds of the Magnificent Seven. As everyone went to sleep that night, they worried about their friends back in Puppet Town, but they knew the parade would not go on tomorrow. The end. Okay.
I am sweating.
I'm exhausted. Oh my god.
That is terrifying.
That was harrowing. That was harrowing.
You were right. That last like 5 minutes, I was like,
because
we have 7 minutes to do this.
That's a thing built into the puppet. The rules is the puppets, again, they have an intrinsic sense of time.
Yeah.
Because they only are awake for a story. They
Yeah.
can say things like, our tale is, its tail's end is what it's called. They can say things like, the tail's coming to an end, I can feel it. They know. So the actors have to have a clock that lets them know how long it is. That is, very specifically exactly
it charges
why.
it back up.
Especially that first half hour, you're like, we got so much time.
Yeah.
And then the last half hour,
The last 10 minutes, I'm like, we have so much to do in 10 minutes.
I saw the
Saying
clock.
I is freaking me out now. I'm like, I'm gonna have this color things in. That one was working.
When you were describing the hammer and it was too heavy and all that stuff, I got this cool imagery. I don't like the marionettes. Okay, sorry about it. But but the imagery of like strings and hammer and like just running for like tunnel and like just dragging
like this. She's on the back, she's on the handle. And they're just like they're just high stepping in their same legs. Just you're welcome. So that was my first ever Wacky Wednesday doing this. You guys know this is all of our first time playing Puppetland, correct? Like you'd never played it, you were just aware of it?
I was just aware of it. I've never played it before. No.
So good job, all of you. Like seriously, give yourselves a round of applause. That was amazing.
Good job,
that was fantastic. So that's our Wacky Wednesday. Usually this is a Twitch only show. This is usually not going to be on YouTube. This was kind of a freak situation. So don't forget to subscribe to our Twitch. We have a couple of subscription goals. For instance, when we hit 20 subscribers, our Dungeon Master, Cody Stone, not me, but our normal Dungeon Master, tune in to see him on Friday, has agreed to allow his cast to all pie him in the face. We will open up what kind of pie we want it to be as voting. It's going to be messy, it's going to be hilarious, it's going to be live.
What is our Twitch, by the way?
Our Twitch is twitch.tv/randomencounterprod.
Oh, P-R-O-D.
P-R-O-D.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's like Productions, but shorter.
Twitch on the character limits.
Thanks, Twitch. So make sure to subscribe to us there so you can see us pie Cody in the face. And then, if I keep DMing, maybe you guys can throw them at me.
What other nights do we have?
What other nights do we have? Well, you're going to be able to see Cody most of these nights. The next time you're going to see us is on Friday night for our Lamplighters. It's called it's our Steampunk 5e. It is a skin of 5th edition called Ultramodern. It's a magnificent thing. It's going to be at 7 Eastern Standard Time. Nope, just Eastern Time because daylight savings time. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. on our Twitch channel. Again, that's the Lamplighters. Join us in late 1800s London and see what kind of wacky and weird is going to be happening. The next day, that Saturday, is back to our high fantasy game, our typical 5th edition in the Straits of Arcadia called Disasters in Danger. That's going to be at 4 p.m. It's a bit of a different time. And then we'll return again next Monday at 7 p.m. once more for another episode of Disasters in Danger. So for the new viewers, we have 2 episodes a week of high fantasy 5th edition D&D, 1 episode a week of steampunk, and then the Wacky Wednesday that could be anything from board games to one-shots to systems like this, which we might revisit in the future. If you liked what you saw, let us know. Please like and subscribe to our channel while you're here. Please go over and like, subscribe, follow us on Twitch. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of which we can put in the description for this video because that's way easier than trying to spell it out for you right now. Because we will get things wrong. One more quick round of announcements. Again, it's the last 24 hours. Yes.
Yeah, the Nobledorf Printing's for their beautiful physical cleric spell
They're
book
so pretty.
is ending just before 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning.
You got about 12 hours, guys. Get over there.
It's beautiful. I think some of the higher tiers have beautiful illustrated spell scrolls. If you like having props at your RPG table, they're gorgeous.
They are phenomenal, and they got fully funded so fast, so you know that they're like a great company. They're very quick with us. They got us our shirts immediately. The people over there, especially Mark. Hi, Mark. He's
hi, Mark.
He's the one we've been working with to get our shirts designed, which are through Nobledorf Printing, and he's just will bend over backwards to make sure that you get what you want on time. They've been adding stretch goals. They've got all kinds of amazing products. And printing for your. There's our shirts.
Look at that bad boy.
If you go join our Patreon, you're gonna get entered into a contest to win one of these shirts. You get entered at the level you subscribe to our Patreon at. So the $1 patrons will get entered once. The $20 patrons will get entered 20 times. But jump in there because anyone has a chance to be a winner. And our Patreon has some really good stuff coming up. We are adding new things to our reward tiers every day. That's an exaggeration. All the time. And we try to keep it interesting. So, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming over here from Twitch because tech issues.
One more hand for Kaitlin!
We got chat claps for Kaitlin, too.
Oh, chat claps! So tell your friends, seriously, tell all your nerdiest friends. We've got some goals based on viewership and followers and subscribers that we'd really like to bring to you guys, but we can't bring that. more viewers and we have more regular followers. So besides the pie thing, I think once we hit 200 followers on Twitch, we're gonna do a fully cosplayed episode of Willin of the Arcadian Straits Disasters in Danger.
Please get us there. I dream about that every day.
Yeah. Once, we all are prepared. We're all like, we have stuff in our closets already, y'all. We ready.
Yeah,
so
I can just, I can just get like a metal face
auto mail
mask.
kind of
paint. You need some chain mail.
Wow, you fucking dork. All right, like, you get that.
We'll call Winry Rock Bell to get you some stuff right out.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
You
excited.
can leave whenever you want.
No, I love her. Right? Yeah, that's true.
You don't let her leave. You tell her that she wants to stay.
Yes.
Yeah,
we've got that coming up. We've got we've had some great ideas for we want to add another show to our weekly lineup on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Sunday. The one our Dungeon Master's talking about right now is a gaming decathlon, where it's the same 5 players every week for 10 weeks playing 10 different games, and there's a different point system, so how many you win is going to be like a tournament, which is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, but we have to hit a certain goal to be able to afford to add another show to our lineup. So really, anything helps, even if you tell your friends and they just follow us. Tell your nerdiest friends, guys. We're cool people to have around. As evidenced by this madness.
We're your least nerdy friends, so that they're very confused.
Yeah, just harass them until they give you $1 to shut up.
Like, this is weird and I hate this.
And then you give that $1 to us. Good cause. Good business plan, y'all. You're welcome.
I'm proud of us. Good job, everybody.
I'm so proud of you guys. You're all amazing. So, thanks for joining us for our third ever Wacky Wednesday, and we will see you all on Friday. Good night.
Bye.